And this is why I tell other people who might be considering dating somebody with ADHD just to be aware of these different things that I'm discussing right now. Because even in the short experience that I had in a relationship with someone with ADHD, I can guarantee you that communication is going to be a huge struggle for you. Okay? Neurotypical people, meaning people who don't have ADHD or don't have ADD or don't have autism or OCD, whatever the case may be, it is extremely difficult for us to effectively communicate with people who have ADHD and vice versa. It is very hard for people with ADHD and other neurodivergent individuals to communicate with neurotypical individuals. And a lot of this is simply based on the fact that our brains work differently. And especially for a person with ADHD, it is very hard for them to effectively communicate what they're thinking, how their mind works, and it is very hard for them to regulate their emotions. Then you factor into the equation the criticism aspect. It's very hard for them to accept criticism, even if it's constructive criticism. You know, even the slightest bit of criticism, they get very easily offended by that. And then that leads to emotional outrage on their part and more misunderstandings and more miscommunications. So these are just very clear aspects of being in a relationship with somebody with ADHD. So I'm just being honest based on my own experiences, and I'm also proposing that, for some people that might not be a good fit for them. And that's basically what I told her. The whole time we were in that relationship, she always told me, "Oh, I want you to be honest with me. Always be honest with me. Don't sugarcoat anything. You can tell me the truth." So towards the end, I was brutally honest with her, and I said that this isn't working for me. I think you have a lot of insecurities and you have a lot of needs, and I'm not the kind of person who wants to be fixing somebody else's insecurities or low self-esteem issues because that's just the kind of person that I am. And I think that you need somebody else who is more equipped to be in a relationship with you. And once again, that doesn't make her a bad person. I just went ahead and made the decision because I didn't think that she was ever going to make the decision herself. It was a hard decision to make, but I had to make it. And I just told her that, hey, I wish you the best of luck, but I'm just realizing that you're not a good fit for me, and I'm not a good fit for you. You need somebody else, and I need somebody else. And that's just the way that it is. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that we are very different people, and for numerous reasons, we are not the right support network for each other. We are not capable of working together and building each other up and moving towards our goals together. And that's what a relationship is supposed to be. And I'm noticing various signs that despite both of our efforts, that's simply not happening. And I'm not going to sit around and wait for that little magic moment where it might be a possibility, where you're finally going to get the message and alter certain behaviors on your end to help the situation. I'm not sitting around waiting for that kind of a thing. Life's too short. So that's just how I put things with her, and I'm sure she got offended by that, but hey, that's just the way that it is. She said she wanted me to be honest, so I was honest with her, and she can take it or leave it. And then she reached out to me about a month after I broke up with her. And despite her saying that, oh, she's been moving on and healing and learning more and all this other stuff, she just reverts right back to the same issues we were having before. She reaches out to me on my last day of work. She knows my work schedule. She waits until my last day of the week when it was literally the last half an hour before I was ready to punch out. She knows I commute an hour to go back and forth to work. I commute 2 hours a day every day that I work, so I'm already exhausted. She knows that. And yet she waits until the last half an hour of my work week to bombard me with all these text messages asking me about, oh, I was just wondering if you had learned anything since we broke up and all this other stuff. Didn't even give me a chance to respond to her, which is, once again, this goes back to the ADHD impulsivity issues. She sends me a bunch of texts in a row, doesn't even wait for me to respond, which I then asked her about. Why are you even reaching out to me? Clearly, you're not interested in hearing how I'm actually doing. You're telling me you're curious how I'm doing, but you're not letting me respond. So why are you even asking that question? Clearly, you don't care. You know it's the end of my work week. You know I'm exhausted, so you don't care how work's been going for me because now you're just trying to exhaust me even more. So what the fuck do you even care? Why are you even asking these questions? And then she tried turning it around. Oh, I was just trying to see if you'd learned anything since we broke up. And I told her point blank range, I said, you know what? I did learn. Compared to you, I actually learned a lot. And I learned that I am not the person to date somebody with ADHD. And that's totally fine with me. And that is okay. You know? It is incredibly exhausting for me to date somebody like you. And to be honest with you, given the way this conversation totally just devolved, and your communication style and your inability to not interrupt when you are asking people questions, and then towards the end you're going to be disrespectful before she even listened to my response about, oh, how's work been going and all this other stuff. She immediately goes down this rabbit hole, and towards the end of the text messages she was saying she basically wanted an apology, and then she says, oh, don't pussy out. Once again, being disrespectful, which I told her, I'm like, clearly you haven't learned anything. I don't know who the fuck you think you're talking to right now, but just by the way that you speak, this is why I'm done with you. You're trying to engage in a conversation right now, saying you want my perspective, and yet you're interrupting. You're not even listening to my response. You didn't even give me a chance to respond, and then you're immediately being disrespectful, saying, oh, don't pussy out. I want an answer. Be a real man. Don't pussy out. Don't run away from the conflict. It's like, I don't know who the fuck she thinks she's talking to, but this is why I told her, clearly you haven't learned anything. I told you before I even broke up with you that if you were going to continue acting this way, acting out like a child, being disrespectful, then I was going to be out of your life. And yet, clearly, you still don't understand that message, because even now, when you're reaching out and trying to have a conversation, you're just automatically reverting back to your same behavior. So, as to what you're actually learning, I seriously doubt that you're learning anything as time goes on for you in your life. And part of the reason she was saying that was clearly because she has listened to this podcast before. She may or may not still be subscribed here, and that is relevant to me. But when we were dating, she did listen to my podcast, so she knows that I care about masculinity and advocating for other men. She has heard a lot of the feminism talking points that I speak about. She has heard about a lot of the self-improvement content that I have made. So part of the reason she was making that statement was because she was trying to insult me and weaponize my values against me. which was once again a huge red flag. So when I heard her say that, that just further solidified for me that I made the right choice in breaking up with her. You know, you should not have to be dealing with people or be in a relationship with anyone who is going to take something that they know you care about or are invested in, and then they're going to try to trivialize it, try to shit all over it, try to weaponize it against you and insult you about it just because they're mad or having an emotional reaction to something. In that situation, she was upset, so now she's going to try to weaponize my values against me. Oh, you talk about being a man, being a real man to your audience. You better be a real man with me and tell me what I want to hear. When you're making your apology, you better give me all the list of reasons of all the things that you did wrong and admit that you were wrong and how you were wrong. Be a real man. That's where that insult is coming from, clearly. Clearly, it's obvious that that is where that originated from. And she also knows some of the other things that I've talked about with self-improvement, which is why she tried attacking my moral character by implying that I'm somehow a hypocrite. I tell other people to improve while not doing anything myself, which is clearly not reality, but that's what she was getting at. So that's why she was trying to attack my moral character. She specifically said in those text messages, "Oh, if you're living up to this moral character that you talk about so much on your podcast, you better tell me what I want to hear. You better apologize the right way. Don't apologize to me if you don't mean it." She couldn't even take the apology that I gave her at face value. I tried apologizing. Once again, I had just said at the beginning of that conversation, like, yeah, I'm sorry things didn't work out. And once again, this was at the end of my work week. I didn't think we were going to be getting into a huge, long debate at that point. But apparently, that was the time she decided she wanted to have that argument. So she, I said that I was sorry, and then immediately she can't even accept that. And she starts telling me, oh, well, don't apologize to me if you don't mean it. And then she sends me like another 8 or 10 texts in a row and was wondering why I wasn't responding right away. And I reminded her, well, it's the last half an hour of my work week. I'm exhausted, and frankly, I didn't know that this was going to be a time that we were going to be arguing about something. Or I should say, I didn't know that you wanted to argue right now, but frankly, I don't have the time or energy for you right now. It's the end of my work week. I really don't care. And I just said that I was sorry for the way that some things went, and you can believe that or not. I'm not interested in having an argument with you about, oh, do I really mean what I said and all this other stuff. It's like, you can believe whatever you want. And like I told her, if I'm such a horrible person and I'm toxic and I'm this and I'm that, then what do you even care? What do you care if I'm really sorry or not? You know, that was one of my last words of encouragement to her, whether she comprehended that or not. And I said, you really seem to be very worried way too much about what other people think of you, whether it's the people that you work with or your fake friends who you've just had some falling outs with, who were never really loyal to you because they cared more about my politics, apparently, than our relationship or your friendship. Like I told her, the one friend that she had basically turned against her as soon as she found out that she was dating me, based on this, based on that. Oh, what's his politics? Oh, is he a conservative? Oh, I'm a liberal. Oh, I don't know if that's the best idea for you to be in a relationship with a guy like that. As soon as we started dating, her one fake friend there was just trying to sabotage the whole fucking thing. And I once again warned her about that the whole time we were in that relationship, but she didn't want to get rid of that friend. She didn't see that till that was too late. And of course, after I break up with her, then a few weeks after that, then she has a falling out with the other friend, as if to prove my point. But these were all things that were going on during the relationship, you know? Her friends, her circle of influence, listening to everybody else's opinion, listening to people who really could care less about her, pretending to be her friend or whatever. And these were different things that were interfering with our relationship, like right from day one. But that was very hard for her to see or understand until it was too late. I spoke to her numerous times about the importance of loyalty and having the right people in your life as your support network. And I realized that the other friend that she had been in her life for a couple years, but hey, people change. If you're seeing red flags in someone's behavior, I don't care if they're bipolar, I don't care what their issue is. If you're seeing red flags in their behavior and they cannot support you when you are in a healthy relationship, or they are not happy for you when you are just happy or doing something good for yourself, then they're not your real friends. That's a very basic fact of life. And I know a lot of people are afraid of being alone, so they tolerate a lot of bullshit from a lot of people. Oh, I don't want to lose this friend. I don't have any other friends. I've known this person for so long. Well, that's no fucking excuse. You know, if people can't build you up and support you, then why are you fucking around with them? I don't care if it's a friend, I don't care if it's a family member, or a relationship, or even an employer in some situations, or your coworkers. You know, there are some people that they could really give a fuck less about you, and you're just gonna waste your whole fucking life pretending to be friends with them while they just drag you down, because they're not invested in you. People like that are not invested in you. They don't give a shit about you. And I've said this for years, and hey, people can either hear that message or not. But I'm telling you right now that your life does improve when you start holding people to standards and you start having strong boundaries with them. And if they fuck around and they disrespect you, then you just tell them to fuck off. Stay the fuck out of my life. We're done here. Goodbye. That's it. That's how you handle it. A lot of people wait years to do that because they're terrified of dying alone, or they're afraid of offending people. But that's a very crucial part of moving towards your goals. Having the self-confidence to get rid of people like that are only going to drain your energy, destroy your mental health, and drag you down because they're resentful of you, they're jealous of you, or whatever the situation is, which is why they're never going to support you. So hey, if you want to affiliate with people like that, hey, go for it. But be prepared to be wasting a lot of your life on people like that, because people like that are a waste of fucking time, and that's just the kind of people that they are. My ex's friend, the liberal friend, she was trying to pull the same shit as far as this virtue signaling goes, with trying to inflict their morality on other people. One of the conversations that she had with her previously, when she was talking about abortion, she was asking my ex, like, oh, do you support abortion? Because her liberal friend supported abortion. And my ex gave her a certain answer, and then her liberal friend said, oh, okay, well, you're a good person. And I find that statement very interesting, because you hear a lot of other people saying shit like that today too. If you agree with them, or you tell them a certain thing that they can agree with, all of a sudden you're a good person. By whose fucking standards are we defining what morality is today? That's the question that I have about all of this. Who the fuck are these people who have convinced themselves that only they are right whether it comes to abortion or women's rights or all the transgender identity arguments we hear about. By whose fucking standards are we actually defining morality anymore? Some fucking nobody woke up one day and decided that only they had the answer to life, only they believe in the right way of thinking or the right way of morality, and anybody who disagrees with them is a bad person. That's fucking delusional. And yet, that is the world that we are dealing with right now. There are some people that are so obsessed with whatever their political party is or whatever their codes of conduct are that they truly believe that they are the only people who are the quote good people in the world. When in most cases they're still just pieces of shit. That's the biggest hypocrisy of the whole thing. My ex's liberal friend was a piece of shit. She treated my ex like shit, which is why I wanted nothing to do with her. I told her from day one, I'm not going to put up with her fucking bullshit. So fuck her. I'm not meeting her. She had no respect for me, didn't even give me a chance to meet her so she could have a conversation, God forbid, get a different perspective on the world. She had already thrown that possibility right out the window. So, yeah, this is why I don't deal with people like that. But people like that are clearly pieces of shit, and yet they are still going to tell themselves that only they are the good people, only they are morally self righteous, and then they're going to make some kind of a condescending statement like that when it comes to abortion or any other topic. Oh, okay, well, you agree with me, so you're a good person. Oh, you don't support Trump, so you're a good person. Oh, okay. This is the fucking psycho land shit that we're dealing with right now. So when a lot of you are wondering why there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of stupid fucking people all around us, this is exactly why. Because a lot of people have bought into this propaganda and media narrative of us versus them, which is why they are so antagonistic now to literally anybody who does not agree with them or does not share their political or religious values. So these were some of the main reasons that, I just ended it with her. And as far as the whole thing with moral character went, like I told her, I've been with you for 4 months already, and if you don't know by now that I do have moral character, especially compared to all the losers you've dated over the years, then you're truly lost. You are truly delusional. If you are going to imply that I don't have moral character or try to question my integrity. And to be completely honest with you, I have way better things to do with my life than to spend my whole life arguing with anyone about my moral character. I'm not wasting time with anyone where I have to prove to them that I have integrity or moral character, especially when the actions that I already take that are positive actions and the way that I treat the people around me speaks for itself. I just find it very interesting that given everything she knows about me, the fact that I get nothing but compliments from the people I work with, from my employer, people talk about how responsible I am, and all these other things. It's like, even knowing that, in her mind, for some reason, that's just not good enough, or she's still going to try to rationalize that away, as if that means nothing. And this is part of what I have been explaining to you guys recently when I've been saying in these videos that, for some people, no matter what you do for them, it'll never be enough. And when you meet people like that, and you recognize that flaw in their moral character, you need to decide how to handle them. And in my and the way that I handle them now is I don't even engage with them. Whether it was her liberal friend who thought she deserved an explanation as to who I am right from day one, she wanted to meet me. And then as soon as she found out that I had conservative or fundamentalist or traditionalist values, then all of a sudden she just wanted to shit all over my moral character. Oh, he must be an evil person because conservatives don't support abortion and whatever she was telling herself. She had already written me off as an evil person because that's what all these idiots do because they're fucking brainwashed. Her friend didn't care who I actually was. Whatever caricature she was painting in her head was coming from whatever retarded shit that she watches on TikTok. All these barely average shills and fucking psychos who barely graduated high school, but they're TikTok influencers and they're affiliated with the left. So I'm sure she had heard a bunch of trash from this shit on TikTok or whatever, you know, news outlet that she watches. So that's the only perception that she had in her narrow fucking mind and her narrow fucking view of things. So why do you think her friend never even wanted to meet me and was already trying to threaten me also before she even met me? Like I said before, she told her friend when they were talking about potentially meeting me, and her friend had said, "Oh, well, if he disagrees with me politically, I'll just punch him in the face." Okay, there you go. Fucking psycho. You know, there you go. And I'm sure my ex would, make excuses for her. She's bipolar. You need to understand this. You need to understand that. And part of the reason I'm making this video today is because ADHD or not, no matter what any person's mental health diagnosis is, there is no excuse to be threatening people or trying to use intimidation tactics against them. And I feel like a lot of people today, they are really hiding behind their diagnosis. They get a diagnosis and then they treat people like shit and they just want to justify it all away. Oh, well, you can't blame me for this. It's because I'm bipolar. It's because I have depression. It's because I have ADHD. I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. I come from a family of people with mental health issues. We handle our life problems just fine. My dad had Great Depression for years. He literally had a chemical imbalance in his brain that he could not control, and we found a way to manage it with therapy and with medication. My father never took his mental health issues out on other people. Yes, he had a short temper at times, but he was able to control himself. He wasn't threatening people, he wasn't getting in physical fights with people, threatening people, going off the fucking rails. My father found a way to control himself, so what does that tell you? And there are plenty of other people who find a way to manage their mental health issues. So frankly, I really don't have that much time or patience or respect for people who want to use their mental health problems to play the fucking victim in society. And we're seeing a lot of that today. And if you don't believe that, then just go look at social media and see what's happening in that fucking freak show. All these people on their platforms throwing a pity party for themselves, giving us these long fucking dissertations about how they were neglected as a child and they have this mental health problem and that problem, and this is why everyone should feel sorry for them and let shit slide and make every goddamn excuse in the book for them as to why they can't take control of their life, or even worse, why they treat people like shit and then they want to, they want a free pass on that. I'm not that kind of person, and I really don't have the tolerance for people who want to live that way. So if you are that kind of a person, just stay far away from me because I'm not going to deal with you. And if you pull that kind of shit with me, I'm going to tell you some very uncomfortable things that you're not going to want to hear. And you can get pissed off about it and you can go and cry about it or do whatever the fuck you do. I don't really care. But there are a lot of other people in the world that have a lot of serious problems. A lot of them have more serious problems than whatever problems you're telling yourself you have, and they have way harder lives than you, and they still find a way to keep going and treat other people with human dignity and respect. So, frankly, no matter what diagnosis you have, or even if it's some body dysmorphia thing, you're trans, you're this, you're that, I don't really give a shit. Stop using your identity and stop using your diagnosis as a victimhood card. You can apply this to race or gender or any other form of identity. Simply having an identity does not give you a free pass to treat other people like shit, and it does not give you a free pass to take no accountability for your actions. Okay? And like I said, choices have consequences. So hey, a lot of you can do whatever you want. But just understand that when you make certain choices for yourself, there are consequences for that. And for a lot of you, those consequences are going to mean that you're going to lose a lot of friends because a lot of people just don't want to put up with you and all of your drama and fucking bullshit. Or they're not going to tolerate your disrespect, so they're going to tell you to fuck off and get the fuck away from them. And hey, that's totally fine. That doesn't make you cold. That doesn't make you cruel. It just means that you have a fucking backbone and you have a pair of balls and you're not going to tolerate bullshit from anyone, even if it's a person with mental health issues who is trying to play the victim. Those people don't deserve your sympathy. They don't deserve your fucking empathy. I know all of society is basically built on that idea right now. Oh, everybody deserves your empathy. You have to love everybody inclusively. If you don't treat everybody inclusively, oh, you're evil. You're a bad person. You're hateful. All the buzz phrases that they throw out there when that's just not reality. You can be a loving person while also having very strong boundaries with people and having enough goddamn respect for yourself to tell some people, you know what? I don't know who you think you're dealing with right now, but I am not tolerating you. If this is how you are going to treat me and other people, fuck off. It's that simple. I don't have to put up with you. In most cases, these people, they're fucking nobodies, and they're just trying to play the victim card. And if you are not the kind of person who is going to tell them what they want to hear, then you're going to become the enemy in their mind. So fine, be the villain in their story if that's what they want. Who gives a fuck what they think? You know? So that's how I look at it. And that's another reason why I explained to her, my social media account is really not the place for you. If the only perception that you have of what I'm doing on these podcasts is that you're going to say that, quote, all I do is talk shit about people and I have a lot of growing up to do. If that is your only perception of what I'm doing, then clearly you missed the whole point. And long form content is really not the thing for you. When I first started dating her, this is the whole reason why I hesitated before even sharing my channel with her. Because I figured that things would probably go the way they always do, which they ended up going that way. She ended up overreacting like every other person has over the years. They start off saying they agree with me and I'm doing a good thing, and it's a good thing that I'm supporting free speech because no one else is doing it today. And then as soon as they get offended, then all of a sudden they're going to try to insult me and trivialize what I'm doing or accuse me of only talking shit about people, which is once again not what the purpose of this is, but that concept is lost on a lot of people. Or make some condescending comment that I I have a lot of growing up to do. To which I just told her, worry about your own life, lady. I am doing just fine for myself, so if you want to compare me to a child, okay. That's your choice. But compared to you, I'm doing just fine. I have a college education, I'm getting another degree, and I have other things going for me in life. I will be just fine. You, on the other hand, are already in your mid 40s. You really haven't done much with your life, and the majority of the relationships you've ever had have been with fucking losers and abusers. Because as spiritually enlightened as you may like to believe you are, you really seem to have really bad judgments when it comes to evaluating the moral character of the men that you allow into your life. And then when you find a guy like me who is not like any of those losers or abusers, you can't even see that. So I think you have a lot of problems with how you perceive people, and that's your problem. That's something that you're going to have to figure out for yourself. But don't delude yourself into thinking you're my mother, or like I'm somehow a child simply because I'm making a podcast, which is something that, frankly, you are not intellectually capable of doing yourself. And that's another thing that I tell other people. Hey, if you disagree with me, okay, fine. More power to you. Go start your own podcast, or go read a book, or do anything else that I've done over the years. But most of you never will, so you really have no room to bitch, do you? That's what I tell people. I just put them right on the spot. If you think I'm uh, not a person who knows what he's talking about, then why are you here? Why are you even on my channel? That's a question that no one ever seems to be able to answer. Whether it's all these employers from over the years who have stalked me on social media, on this channel, on my old Facebook, whatever the situation may be, why are you even here? You're listening to what I'm saying. So, I think a lot of these people make these insults from their own insecurity because I'm doing something that they lack the courage to do. So, to make themselves feel better about that, they're going to try to insult me and tell themselves whatever they want. Oh, he's just immature. Oh, he just talks shit about people. He just thinks he's better than people. So, they'll come up with any rationalization they want, but that doesn't actually change the reality of the situation. And I'm at a point in my life right now where, like I said, I'm confident enough in who I am that I don't need to argue with people like that, because I just realize they're idiots. And I just realize that no matter what I say, it'll never matter to them. So it's really not worth my time. And they are also the kinds of people that they don't deserve an explanation from me as to who I am. So this is why I don't get offended when they try to insult me or say whatever they do about me, because they're not the kind of people who have earned an explanation as to who I am. I don't owe them shit. It would be different if they were actually a friend of mine or a family member or anyone else in the world that I actually have some kind of respect for. Those are people who I actually care about their perception of me, because I am invested in them and I am loyal to them on some level. So I want to make sure that I carry myself in a way that honors them, that they would be proud of. And then that is usually a reciprocal kind of relationship. They want to do things for me or with me that also reinforces that honor code system. That's how healthy friendships and loyalty actually works with people. But there are other people who, like I said, if they can't even see your moral character or your integrity or the fact that you are a good person, you don't need to waste your time explaining yourself to those people, because they are fools. It doesn't matter what you do for them. It doesn't matter how you treat other people. They're never going to see that. So those are people who do not deserve an explanation as to who you are. They can believe whatever the fuck they want about you. There's people from over the years, hey, I'm sure they hate the shit out of me. But hey, that's just life. There's people that I pissed off years ago simply because I critiqued them on something or they asked me for advice and I told them some cold, harsh truths that they didn't want to hear, and then they flipped the fuck out about it and said they wanted nothing to do with me ever again. And okay, that's their prerogative, but look at where those people are today. Like I've said in a lot of these numerous videos, I have friends that I went to high school with. They asked me for advice years ago, and where are they now? Some of them are dead, some of them are locked up, or some of them are alcoholics and now they're just working some shit job that they fucking hate and they're going to do that for the rest of their life. There are some people that they will ask you for advice, but they don't really want your advice. They just want you to tell them what they want to hear because that's what everybody else does with them. That's just the kind of people that they are. And when you see people like that, you need to evaluate the situation and decide if they are actually worth your time. Because in a lot of situations, they are not. And affiliating with people like that is going to waste a lot of your time. They are going to drag you down, and it will also impact your ability to help other people who actually need your help in the future. So that's how I approach the situation when we're talking about friendships and loyalty and people who are actually worth your respect and worth investing in and spending your time and energy on and moving forward with them. And everybody else who does not fit inside that circle, who they can just go off and do whatever they want without you in their life. Because that's the choice they made for themselves based on their own choices with you. And I told her, I said, hey, best of luck to you. Maybe you'll do something worthwhile with your life. You're already in your mid 40s and you haven't really done much yet, but hey, who knows? Miracles happen all the time. But that's not my responsibility. That's your life. Those are things that you need to work out in your life. If you're not happy with your job and you're not happy with your career and all this other stuff, okay, fine, go do something else. But that was another reason that I had ended it with her. She's not happy with her job, and I'm happy with my job right now. But she was starting to drag me down with her attitude about her job. She's not happy with this, she's not happy with that. And like I've said for years, emotional states of other people are as contagious and infectious as diseases. If you are affiliating and surrounding yourself with people who are not happy about whatever it is, their job, their relationship, their financial situation, whatever, those people will eventually drag you down. Because as the old phrase goes, misery loves company. And that was another thing that I was starting to notice towards the end. A lot of her discontentment with her job and, whatever life problems she was having, that was starting to rub off on me. And I'm not going to let anybody drag me down like that based on their own life choices and different things that they're not happy with now as a result of different choices they've made for their life. I'm not going to be with somebody where their toxic attitudes are going to directly affect my attitude, which is also going to distract me from my goals and other things that I need to be focusing on instead of trying to fix somebody else's life problems. And this once again became evident when, even towards the end, when I was going to visit her, she always told me, she's like, oh, I can't believe you didn't understand that I was happy every time I saw you, when clearly that's not reality either. Right towards the end of the relationship, there were some weekends that I went to see her, and as soon as I walked in the door, she was already in a mood, having a mood swing about something that had happened at work or something else, and she's basically already being ungrateful about me being there, saying some condescending comment about, oh, I'm surprised you came today, that barely ever happens, or whatever the situation may have been. That's not gratitude. This is what I tried explaining to her. Every time she told me, "Oh, you only took me for granted." And I said, "Well, what do you think it is when I'm coming to visit you because we're in a relationship and we're dating, and as soon as I walk in the fucking door, you're saying some condescending comment because you're in a mood, and you're going to tell me, 'Oh, I'm surprised you came to see me today. That never happens.' Instead of maybe thanking me for being there, instead maybe being grateful that I'm there. Oh, hey, I'm excited to see you. What a surprise. I didn't think you were going to be here." Any of those would have been acceptable responses instead of some condescending fucking comment. Oh, this barely ever happens. I'm surprised you came. So whether she remembers saying these things or not, once again, is not my concern. I'm not responsible for her memory issues or her attention deficit issues or whatever the situation is, based on her ADHD and a lot of insecurities that she has, okay? But these are still behaviors that she was exhibiting, and they were affecting the relationship, whether she wants to take accountability for that or not. And like I said before, I think a lot of things will improve over time if a lot more men finally grow a pair of balls and stop tolerating low quality women and stop tolerating all of the bullshit that these women think they have a right to inflict on men. A lot more men need to just have the self confidence that, hey, if your standards are not being met, all you got to do is leave. You don't need to have an endless argument with the girl that you're with. If you decide to break up with her, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if she tries to guilt trip you and say, "Oh, it's because you're not a strong man," and blah, 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 blah. I've heard every argument in the book. The cold fact of the matter is that some women are just not a good fit for you. So if you make that decision, then you just leave her. That's how you handle the situation. This was one of the main reasons I finally just ended it in my last relationship. And this kind of goes into what I was talking about before with how arrogant a lot of these women are. My ex-girlfriend wasn't a horrible person compared to other people I've dated, but I noticed that she definitely had this attitude where I don't really think she believed that I would break up with her. I don't know why she thought that, but I kind of got that vibe after all the conversations I had with her, and I made it very clear before we started having other issues. I said, "These are my standards. These are the standards that I have for you. I've heard your side of it. I've heard what you've told me you would like us to work on as a couple, and I understand that, and I am making efforts with you." But I made it very clear to her. I said, "If you start disrespecting me or you're not meeting my standards, I will be gone." And I said this over and over again, and I don't know if she didn't comprehend that because of her ADHD, or maybe she just wasn't listening, which was another huge problem with her, just never listening to anything I said. But for whatever reason, she didn't really seem to understand what I was communicating. I made it very clear, and I said, "I have a lot of responsibilities in my life right now, whether that's going back to college, taking care of family members, or doing whatever I'm doing. I do not have time to have a romantic partner cause me problems. This should be a mutual relationship where we are working together and cooperating and trying to grow together. I do not want to be with somebody who is only going to hold me back." And honestly, it was just getting to the point where even just being with her for a few months, I was really starting to see how she was not capable of meeting my standards. That's really what it came down to. And like I said, that doesn't make her a horrible person. But I don't think a lot of women really understand that today. They seem to have this notion in their mind that men should just put up with all of their bullshit. Men should just pretend that she's the best woman in the world. And a lot of this was played out after I broke up with her. I heard her say the same things that I've heard a lot of other women say, whether they're on social media or anywhere else. And it all came back down to, oh, well, I deserve so much better. This is a one sided relationship. No one's ever appreciated me. Everybody's always taken me for granted. And like I told her, I said, I'm hearing what you're saying. And first of all, it's disingenuous because if you actually listen to anything that I've ever told you, you would know by now that you and I actually have a lot in common. I've told you from day one that people have taken me for granted and underappreciated me, whether you ever realize that or not. And yet, there were definitely aspects of our relationship where you were doing the same thing to me. Taking me for granted, not listening to me like I don't know what I'm talking about, and really not appreciating a lot of the things that I was trying to help her with. There were numerous things she asked me for help with, and I helped her with them, and even after that, like it just wasn't good enough. She wanted help with her resume. I tried to help her with that, and then she just wanted to start an argument about it over me saying a word. I described that in the last video and how that argument went. There were other things that she wanted to speak about, and I was patient with her, even being exhausted working my job. I was being patient with her and listening to her perspectives and all this other stuff. It's not too many other guys who would have spent hours listening to her go on and on and on about whatever her problems were at work at the time or whatever she was upset about. Not too many other guys would have put up with that. A lot of other guys probably would have left a lot sooner than I did. But I was trying to support her and I was trying to be patient with her. But by the end of the relationship, even that wasn't good enough. All that just went out the door. So this is why I ended up ending it with her, because I was looking at that behavior that she was already exhibiting and comparing that to how much of my life I was potentially going to waste had I stayed with her. If I was already putting in all of that time and energy with her and she was writing it off like that meant nothing, and I was not, or she was going to act like I was making no effort at all, then why bother? I'm not a person who has time to sit around and wait for somebody to get the message that, okay, I'm here, we're in this relationship, I'm trying to communicate with you, but you just don't understand that. I don't have time to be in a relationship with somebody where, they want to go in circles with me about, oh, well, my therapist said this and my friends think that about you and all this other stuff without ever hearing my perspective. You know, making a lot of assumptions about me based on her friends who never even met me, her therapist who never even met me, but she's going to go back and forth in her head about, oh, you know, should I be with him? Should I listen to him? Should I respect him? Going and asking and speaking to other people to come to that conclusion. And this is another part of her behavior that I was noticing. And that's the behavior from a person I don't want to be with. I don't want to be with a person who lacks the common sense to evaluate my moral character based on their own personal interactions with me. She was with me for 4 months. There's no reason that she needed to be going to her therapist or her friends to ask them questions about me. They really had no business in our relationship. They had no business trying to evaluate me because they never met me, so how the fuck would they even know anything about me? But this is how her mind works. And the whole time I was with her, I really just got the vibe that it's like she says that she's made her decision with me, but I don't think that's the case. I think she's undecided about a lot of things. At least this is what I was telling myself when I was still in the relationship with her. I think she's undecided about a lot of things, and she can't make a decision for herself. So this is why she's getting everybody else's opinion about me instead of just giving me the benefit of the doubt, instead of speaking to me directly about certain things or working with me on certain things. It always came down to, well, my therapist said this, or I heard a dating video that said that. What the fuck does that have to do with us? Absolutely nothing. But like I said, a lot of external forces were influencing her choices with me, and this became a serious problem. It was almost as if that was dividing a lot of the communication and a lot of her perceptions just about me and the relationship in general. It was a form of interference, and this is why a lot of problems ended up happening. Which, by the way, her own therapist did warn her that she would be the eventual reason why I would break up with her. One of the therapists that she went to told her during a couple sessions as they were discussing our relationship, she did tell her point blank range, she's like, I would just be careful in the situation because you can be very overbearing and you can be very illogical and very over emotional. And given his personality type and his low tolerance for bullshit, if he breaks up with you, it will be because of something you did. And that is ultimately how the situation ended up ending. Which I also find bizarre that she can't admit that to herself because that therapist is also a new age mystic that she like swears by. Compared to her other therapist, this therapist is a new age mystic and she's kind of like an oracle kind of figure who has made predictions about certain things in the past, and she's, at least according to my ex-girlfriend, she's been right about 90% of the time with most of the prophecies and things like this that she's said. She's like kind of like a mystic, psychic, however you would want to define her. So the fact that she's been right 90% of the time, my ex-girlfriend knows that, and she also knows, whether she remembers or not, that that lady did tell her numerous times, you will be the cause. If he breaks up with you, it will be because of something you did, and you need to take responsibility for what you did and not blame him for it. Because by that point, he will have given you enough chances, and you will have either passed that test or failed. And ultimately, that's what ended up happening, and yet, even now, she's still in denial about it. She keeps looking for rationalizations. The last time she communicated with me, all she could come up with was, well, you did some things wrong too. Can't we talk about that? She wants me to give her a list of all the things that I did wrong so she can like balance it out in her head once again so she doesn't have to take accountability for her own actions. It's almost as if, she'll be able to sleep better about it if, well, I did all these things wrong and then he did all these other things wrong too. So I guess it kind of balances out. So it's not really anybody's fault. We each are responsible for it ending. Which I'm not saying that I don't take accountability for my actions, which I'm sure she will always try to accuse me of, even though I once again communicated that to her numerous times. I took accountability for my role in the relationship. I communicated that to her numerous times. Whether she heard that or not is up for debate. I'm not saying I take no accountability for the way that certain things went, but I am also addressing the reality that, in comparison to the two of us, yes, I would say she's the main reason that it just did not end up working. And once again, that doesn't make her a bad person. It just means that we're not compatible. We had more than enough time to communicate and share our values with each other and try to come to some kind of a resolution or an understanding, and that was simply not capable of happening. Whether due to problems with listening, misunderstandings, or once again, not making a decision for herself because she needs to get the input of 50 other people who aren't even me, apparently, before she can make a decision about me. So these are all reasons why I decided, yeah, I'm not spending the rest of my life with somebody like that. And I'm sure she doesn't see it that way. And the way that I ended things, she just said what she always did, you know, because I disagree with her now. Oh, well, now all of a sudden I have a trash podcast, which she listened to in the past, by the way. She said before she agreed with most of what I said. It's only now that I've offended her or broke up with her that now all of a sudden it's a trash podcast. So, of course, there you go. Typical, predictable retaliation behavior, which I also told her. I said, you know, you're way too predictable. That's another reason I'm just done with you. You're boring. You bore me. Similar to how all these other modern women, like, they really just bore me. When I see these women on social media putting up like a sentence as their life quote under a selfie as if they're really living their life like that, that bores the fuck out of me. Because they're just doing the same thing that every other woman does. And it's like, it just gets to a point, it's like, is that the best that you have? Is that the best that you have to offer? Some superficial fakery on social media? Do you have no original ideas for yourself? Are you not capable of being an individual human being anymore? Having an identity because it's just been corrupted by all these outside influences. Your whole personal image is reliant on the opinions of other people or of what some entertainment industry shill told you to do, told you how to dress, told you what to believe. You know, there's millions of women on social media, and to be honest with you, there's probably only a couple thousand of them that are actually genuine women anymore. Honestly, like I just look at these women and it's like they're way too predictable. They're all doing the same stupid shit. And it's like they don't even fucking care. And like, you know, they just don't seem to get it. They really don't seem to get the point that they've literally just been groomed into slaves for this establishment, and they're going to be dealing with some serious problems later in their life as a result of their own choices, whether they ever want to take accountability for those choices or not. But it's really pathetic and it's sad for a lot of them, but you know, a lot of them, like I said, you can't speak reason to them, so you know, there's no point arguing with them about it. So fine, like let them believe whatever they want. That's how I left things with my ex, you know, right at the end because I disagreed with her. Now all of a sudden I'm toxic and I'm a narcissist, and I told her, I said, good luck with the rest of your life. If that's the best that you can come up with for a worldview, best of luck to you. Defining anybody who disagrees with you as toxic or a narcissist, just throwing out some parroted buzz phrases as if that really defines the complexity of any human being. You know, it's really pathetic when you're the kind of person who wants to ascribe one word to a person that you barely even know, by the way. Even my ex-girlfriend, she doesn't fucking know me. She has no idea who I am. I was only with her for 4 months, but like I said, she barely listened to anything I ever told her. And even if she listened to this podcast in the past, I mean, with the way her attention deficit issues are, I'm sure she never absorbed any of it anyways. So, like, what the fuck did that matter either? She doesn't know who the fuck I am. But she's gonna ascribe a couple words to me now to define me in her head to make her, you know, feel more comfortable about her own choices. You know, there was a lot of disrespect and a lot of inconsiderate behavior on her part, whether she takes accountability for that or not. And frankly, that was something that I got tired of dealing with, even after the breakup. And this is why I told her, we're done here. Don't contact me again, because I've told you numerous times to keep the conversation respectful. You're incapable of doing that. And I realize you can't control your emotions, but that is no excuse to be speaking to me in the way that you are right now. I understand that you're hurt, and so am I, in some aspects, whether you ever understand that or not. And frankly, I don't appreciate you insinuating that I never had any feelings for you at all. Like when she would text me certain words all in capital letters and say, "Oh, well, I'm just expressing my emotions." And she would type emotions in all caps. Well, what's that implying? She's trying to imply that I somehow don't have emotions, or I never really loved her, or whatever the situation is. These are all very subtle communication cues, and that's clear that that was the point of a lot of what she was trying to communicate to me. She thinks that only she is the person who lost something. She thinks that only she has emotions. Only she is capable of really loving people, and anybody who has any problem with her at all, they must just be a hateful or intolerant person. Once again, this is where that victimhood syndrome starts to come into play. When people start to view themselves as the only people who have ever been hurt or wronged by somebody, and then everybody else outside of that circle becomes their enemy. Oh, you're just a toxic person. Only I'm capable of having emotions. Only I have emotions. Only I really know what it means to love somebody, to be in love with somebody. You don't understand that. You never cared about me. You don't have any emotions. When, once again, a lot of these things are clearly not the reality. There were a lot of things that I did for her when I was in that relationship with her, whether she remembers that or not. There were times that I cooked for her. You know, not too many other people today are doing that in relationships. Certainly not women. I was with her for 4 months. She never cooked anything. It sounds like a cliche, but it's the truth. When I talk about how low quality a lot of modern women are today, well, it's not a cliche, it's the truth. A lot of them barely have any knowledge of housekeeping tasks anymore, and most of them can't cook for shit. Their great grandmothers could cook a huge meal, they can't even boil a fucking egg. Literally. And that's not something that I'm like religious about or anything. I didn't have any demands of her that I expected her to cook for me, but I don't think that's a crazy expectation to have either. It would be nice to have a girlfriend that actually knows how to cook or actually took the initiative one time to try to cook something for her boyfriend, but that never happened when I was with her. So those are just some clear examples of, okay, clearly I was making some efforts and clearly she wasn't making some efforts, and we can argue back and forth all day long about who did what or who didn't do enough, but it just is what it is. Like I've said for years, men and women both have various failings, and hey, these can be learning experiences, and hey, maybe something better will come of it in the future. But I'm not going to waste my time sitting around and having endless arguments about, oh, well, only I'm to blame for why everything went the way that it did. I'm not going in endless circles with somebody about that, especially if they've already convinced themselves that they're a victim, that only they have ever been taken for granted or underappreciated in a relationship, when clearly that's not the reality. Like I said numerous times before about this, she knew that I was going back to college. I communicated to her numerous times that I really needed her support in that aspect, that I had a lot of other things going on and I did not need her nagging me about that. Was she capable of listening to me in that aspect and showing me the support that I was asking from her? No, she wasn't. because she was nagging me about going back to college. She was nagging me about, oh, how much time are you going to be able to spend on me, and how much attention am I going to get, and is this going to happen, and is that going to happen? Once again, all of these what ifs and overthinking that stressed her out, caused her anxiety before I had even started my enrollment in college. And whether she realizes that or not, that was something else that was driving some of my decisions. Because I know how stressful it was going to be as soon as I started college. And the fact that she was already freaking out about that was a huge red flag. Because once I start a college degree program, I am not going to have time for that. And she can rationalize it away any way she wants and say that's selfish of me for focusing on my career and wanting to make more money and everything. And hey, if she wants to believe that, okay, fine. This is the same person who said that she wanted a boyfriend who was ambitious, who had his shit together in life, who was focused on his goals and all this other stuff. And then she ends up with a guy like that when she's with me, and then all she can do is fucking complain about it. She's not getting enough attention. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing that right. You know, all these endless lists of complaints. So this is also what I am getting really down to when I am discussing these other ideas with you guys about how ungrateful women are today, and how some women really only deserve a certain kind of guy. They will tell themselves, oh, I deserve so much better, when in reality, if they're not capable of supporting the few good, responsible, and ambitious men, and they are not able to understand their role, which is a good role to have, by the way, this idea that modern women are somehow sacrificing their independence or their autonomy by supporting a man, by supporting their boyfriend or husband. This feminist notion that that is somehow a bad thing is ridiculous. There are some women who take pride in that. There are some women who actually like the idea of being with a man who they can support, because the goal is for both of you to grow together and to have a better life as a result of the sacrifices that you are making for each other. But a lot of women can't see that anymore. A lot of women are either only focused on their career, which is why they don't want a relationship with any man, or they get in a relationship with a man and maybe he is focused on his career, but they don't want to support him in that. They don't want to support him with going to college. They don't want to support his goals because they see that as somehow losing something as a woman. If I become his wife or the mother of his children, I'm losing something. That's not what a strong woman is. I should be this, I should be that. My girlfriends aren't doing that. My girlfriends aren't in a committed, loyal, loving, healthy relationship with another man. So these are all the different ideas that kind of fuck with their head when they start to evaluate what the feminist culture has told them is becoming of a modern woman today versus some of the other female desires that they just innately have as women. For most heterosexual women, it is a biological drive to want to be a mother, and in some situations to be a wife for a man. And that is not a bad thing. And I realize that the secular culture is trying to paint that as the worst thing in the world, but that is simply not the reality. And until a lot more women wake up to the reality of that and realize that, frankly, they've really been lied to their entire lives by the feminist culture, the Democrat socialist media outlets, and every other psycho out there today on their soapbox, telling them to forsake marriage, forsake being a mother, only chase their career, only chase hookup culture, have all the abortions they want, and all this other trash they tell these women, until more women wake up to the reality of the fact that they've been lied to their entire lives. And this is also why they're seeing all of their girlfriends ending up the way that they do later in life, and they literally hate their fucking lives now because of all the really shitty decisions that they made based on buying into all this woke, feminist, and liberal propaganda. Then nothing's ever going to change. And like I said before, a lot of what I talk about is basically a commentary about that. And hey, people can either hear that message or not. I'm past the point of arguing with these arrogant women who they think they know it all, or they're disrespectful of men, so they don't give a shit anyways. A guy like me, they're never going to hear my perspective, so what the fuck do they care? I'm not interested in convincing other people to live the way that I do or have the beliefs that I have. All I'm really interested in is living life on my own terms. And like I said, there are some women who can handle that, and the ones who can handle that, they are the ones that are in my life. And the ones who can't handle that know that they can pound sand and just stay the fuck out of my life. Because that's the kind of man that I am. I'm not making excuses for anybody, and I'm not pandering to anybody, whether it's a man or a woman or anybody else. I'm really the last person who cares. So that's just the way that it is. And like I said, as much as she wants to say, like a lot of these other women today, oh, I deserve so much better, or even more delusionally, numerous times she would try telling me she wasn't high maintenance, saying statements to me like, oh, I barely ever ask you for anything, when the reality is that all of the demands that she did make of me aside, whether this would have been how many times during the day she wanted to be texted, or right from the beginning of our relationship where she was giving me all these dating videos to watch, like being with her was going to be a homework assignment. That was already an added layer of complexity right from day one. She had this whole list of expectations about what I should have been learning about ADHD, all these dating videos that she wanted me to watch, personality quizzes that she was upset that I didn't want to take for her to figure out my attachment style and all this other nonsense, because she is a woman who buys into this whole, you know, dating culture online, apparently. You're only going to be able to understand somebody if you know their attachment style and you know about their childhood traumas and all this other pseudo psychological babble and nonsense. But all of that kind of stuff aside, you know, it's not so much the things that she was asking me as it was what the long term prospects of being with her was going to mean. And what I mean by that is just the simple reality of the fact that she is already a middle aged woman, she is a single mother, and she already, not only is she a neurodivergent, she also has a child who is neurodivergent on the spectrum. And as much as people might want to say that that makes me judgmental or somehow less of a man for not wanting to sign up to be with a woman like that, is relevant to me. And I think even she would have to admit that not only is she a very difficult person to be with, but she already has a lot of other baggage in her life that, frankly, any guy that signs up to date her or marry her in the future, he is going to be signing up for a lot of additional drama and bullshit in his life. And that's just the cold reality of the situation. And as much as people might want to say that, you know, I'm judgmental for that, well, hey, I don't see too many other guys willing to sign up for that. By all means, if I'm wrong, hey, prove me wrong. I'm sure there's some superhero out there that, hey, maybe he'll start dating her and maybe he'll be the perfect match for her. I'm pretty indifferent about it. But that guy, whoever he is, best of luck to him, because he is going to need even more patience than I have, which most people, the biggest compliment they give me is that I have the patience of a saint, but even my patience has limits with the kind of people that I'm willing to tolerate or not, and how many additional responsibilities I'm willing to take on in my life, especially if it's going to hold me back from certain goals that I have. And distract me from other responsibilities and commitments that I already have to my friends and family, who frankly, they have been a part of my life for way longer, and I actually owe them way more. And that's just the cold reality of the situation. But that is something that I bring up when we talk about these women who say, oh, I deserve so much better. Most of them do not deserve better because they're already the kinds of women who don't even have gratitude for the men that they have, or they are disrespectful of men. They don't acknowledge their sacrifices. They could care less about a lot of the struggles that men like us are going through as we go back to college and better ourselves or take on additional life responsibilities. They don't give a shit about any of that. It all comes back down to what they think they deserve from men and all of the expectations that they have from men. And the argument always comes back down to, oh, well, a real man would be able to handle this and handle that. When a lot of these women need to finally just wake up to reality and realize, listen, you've made a lot of life choices for yourself, and that's your prerogative. But don't turn the situation around later and act like you're not high maintenance or you don't have a lot of unresolved baggage in your life that you are really going to be putting that off on another man, whoever you end up with. Those are going to be expectations you are going to have for him, and you are going to expect him to turn a blind eye on all of your flaws, all of the life problems that you have as a woman now. And no matter what efforts he makes with you, it's always going to be some excuse for you as to why he's not good enough. And you're a victim, and you deserve so much better. Which is why I say that a lot of this comes down to women refusing to take accountability for their own actions. Very few women actually ever realize that they really only qualify for a certain kind of men. There are a lot of women who have made very poor life decisions, which by extension means that there are certain men that they no longer qualify for in their relationships. There are some women that, if they are single mothers, or they're disrespectful of men, or whatever the case may be, they will still tell themselves, oh, I deserve a man who makes 6 figures a year, who's going to provide me a good life and tolerate all of my drama and bullshit. That's clearly not the reality, but this is what a lot of women believe. Even if they're busted trash, even if they really have nothing going for them in life as women, even if any relationship they're ever in, they make little to no effort at all. They're not cooking for their boyfriends. They're not trying to do anything to try to make his life easier. They're just trying to make his life a living hell. They're barely wife up material anymore. Even those women will tell themselves, and they will be all over social media telling all of us why they deserve so much better from men. They've bought into this feminist narrative that they think they're queens, they think they're goddesses, and like I said in the previous video, they're so used to all these useless beta male simps kissing their fucking asses. This is why they don't believe anymore that some of them are just busted trash. That frankly a lot of men just want nothing to do with. And you can call that being judgmental, but I call it being smart. If you're making certain choices for yourself as a man, yes, there are going to be a lot of women and a lot of other people who are going to call you an asshole for that. But, the last I checked, some of the most successful men out there today are the ones who are assholes. And a lot of that is because they're smart enough to have made certain choices, and especially they have made smart choices about the women that they do not allow into their life for various reasons. And a lot of times that comes down to the fact that she is just not going to be capable of being a girlfriend or a wife for him. And he's thinking about more than just sex when he is evaluating the women that he will or will not tolerate. So that's why a lot of men end up more successful than other men in their lives, because they have more of a pragmatic approach to the dating scene and the long-term prospects of their relationships and their families. And women can get pissed off about that all they want, like they always do, and tell themselves all these narratives based on all the memes that they read and all this pseudo psychological nonsense that'll tell them whatever they want to believe, that oh, you're a special precious princess and snowflake, and you just haven't found the right man yet, and everybody else in the world is to blame for why you are where you are in life as a woman. Men are the enemy. Never settle for less. That's all they tell these women, you know. Any guy who doesn't want to sign up for all your drama and bullshit and emotional baggage and all the kids you have from some other man or whatever the situation is, the narrative always gets switched around to, oh well, those guys are just insecure. They don't see you for the special princess that you are. When in reality, not all women are great matches for guys. That's just the reality. It's just the fact that we live in a society where every single woman, no matter who she is, no matter how ugly she is, no matter how overweight she is, no matter how many kids she already has, every single woman thinks that she's, the best thing in the world, which is why they get outraged when some guys just reject them for their own personal reasons. So, if they don't like the results that they're getting, then hey, they can either improve themselves or not. But just so long as they understand if they're not willing to improve themselves, then they really only qualify for a certain kind of guy. And I've said this numerous times before, that's just the reality. This goes for both men and women, even men who say, oh, I deserve so much better. If you are a certain kind of a man, you also only qualify for a certain kind of a woman, which I said in the previous video. If you're an unmotivated loser and you don't have your shit together in life as a man, you don't have a car, you don't have a house, you don't have a real job, then the only women you really qualify for are busted trash, because those kinds of women usually don't have standards for men, which is why they sleep around with any loser, basically. Those women have no standards for men. So if you're that kind of a loser, if you're an unsuccessful man like that, that doesn't mean you'll never get laid. But it just means that the women who are willing to sleep with you will probably be busted trash, because those women really don't have standards for the guys they fuck around with, because they don't care. And the same thing goes for women. It's the same exact thing for women, even though we never hear about it. There are certain women that, hey, they make certain choices for themselves. They make certain life choices, some good, some bad, and that ends up affecting the men that they actually qualify for later in life. So just keep that in your mind every time you see one of these broads on social media saying the same parroted phrases that they always do, that, oh, I deserve so much better. I deserve such a better guy. When at the end of the day, they really don't. Everybody only deserves what they've actually worked for and actually qualified for in life, okay? The other analogy that I've used before is there's a lot of unemployed people today, able-bodied unemployed people, who are collecting a fucking welfare check, and they're always the first people to say, oh, I deserve a car. I deserve a better car. I deserve this. I deserve that. And it's like, well, you don't really deserve shit if you're not willing to get off your useless ass and fucking work for it. You don't deserve anything. It's the same concept with dating and relationships, yet simply because the topic is men and women, that argument goes out the door. All of a sudden, it's not about evaluating who actually worked for something in life. This is just a very basic capitalist concept that applies to every other aspect of our lives, and it seems like common sense. Yet when it comes to intergender dynamics between men and women, for some reason, that logic, people don't want to apply that logic in that scenario. For some reason, all of a sudden, it's not the same thing. It is the same concept, but people don't want to view it that way. When it comes down to confronting a woman and telling her, okay, well, you say you deserve so much better. What have you actually done? Other than being a woman and having a vagina, which, every female has a vagina, so that doesn't make you special. Okay, flaunting your sexuality, any idiot can do that, and they are doing it, whether they're on social media or OnlyFans. Okay, we've established that you have a vagina. Congratulations. What else have you actually done to deserve this high quality man that you are telling everybody you deserve and telling yourself you deserve? When the conversation comes down to that, then they don't have shit to say, because in a lot of situations they know that they're really not that great. A lot of them are barely average women, and they just expect men to placate to them because that's what the society does. But a lot of men are starting to wake up to reality, thank God, and they are rejecting more women now if they do not meet their standards. And a lot of women can't handle that, but hey, that's just too fucking bad. If you can't handle that, then hey, stay single forever and die alone. Don't have a family, don't have a husband, go do whatever you want. Those are your options right now. But I think a lot of women are also waking up to reality. They perceive a society in crisis. They know how insane this world is right now. They see all of the trash that's going on with, gender roles basically being erased from society, all the feminist propaganda, all the wokest ideologies. There are a lot of women who have a lot more common sense than their female peers, and I think a lot of those women are starting to perceive a society in crisis. They're starting to see the long term results of this society that has just totally shit on men and masculinity and male honor and masculine virtues. And they're starting to evaluate the situation to decide what side of the aisle they want to be on in the future, because times are only going to keep getting harder for a lot of people. And I think as more time goes on, a lot more people are going to start waking up to a lot of cold realities about the world in general. And in those times of hardship and conflict, that's when you see a lot of people really exposed for who they really are. But it's also when you start to see a lot of other people start to reevaluate their life values, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people are going to be waking up to some cold realities, and hey, maybe they'll make some choices for the better. Maybe they'll start focusing on family and marriage again instead of all the superficial bullshit of social media and chasing career and all this other, whatever they occupy their time and their minds with. Maybe some people will wake up to the reality and, you know, try to build a better future, and that'll be a good thing. But for a lot of these people, that's never going to happen, and, you know, that's just the kind of people they are, and that's how they want to live, so you can't do anything about that. So there's no point arguing with them, just let them go off and do whatever they're going to do. Honestly, I think a lot of women will be much happier in the future and far less disappointed when they figure out a way to detach themselves from all the false expectations that they see on social media about relationships or men and women and all this other trash that they hear on reality TV shows or whatever the situation is. And finally just realize that, hey, we all make life choices, and based on those life choices, that is going to dictate not only your results in life based on your circles of influence, the people you choose to be friends with, the ideas that you choose to believe in, but it is also going to directly influence the quality of your relationships. And I know a lot of women will always tell themselves, oh, I'm never settling for less. I refuse to settle for less. I deserve this, I deserve that. When in reality, if you're a woman and you have made certain life choices, you've already made the choice to settle for less yourself. Forget about what you deserve in a relationship with a man. You've already lowered the bar in your own life and not held yourself to certain standards, so that is settling for less with your own life, with your own goals, with your own career goals, or whatever the situation may be. So if you are that kind of a woman, then just realize that there are only certain kinds of men that you are going to qualify for. So you can tell yourself all you want, you're never going to settle for less, but you're going to be disappointed at your results if that's your attitude. Because if you keep trying to date outside of your league and trying to attract guys that have no interest in you because you are a low quality woman, then you're just setting yourself up for failure. If you've already chosen to settle yourself in life, then that's your choice, and you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that there's only a certain kind of man that you really qualify for now. And in my experience, those guys are usually fucking idiots or they're desperate. Because only stupid men and only desperate men tolerate low quality women who disrespect them and who really don't put in much effort at all to try to make a relationship work or to support their man or whatever the situation may be. That's just the cold reality of the situation. So these women can tell themselves all they want about, what they deserve and they're never settling for less. But, sooner or later they will come to the realization that they are in fact responsible for their lack of quality results in relationships. So, in a situation like mine, like I said before, that's a life lesson that she may or may not ever learn, and I'm indifferent about it at this point. I really don't care. Compared to the other boyfriends that she had, and I told her this the last time before I just cut communication with her. I said, compared to all of the other losers that you've dated over the years, you are hardly in a position to be judging me about anything. Saying that I didn't meet some standard that you had, or whatever the situation is. I never slapped you around. You had boyfriends that did that. I never did that to you. Oh, well, that's not good enough. Oh, okay. Not sure what that standard's based on, but okay, believe it if you want. You dated other losers that weren't motivated, had nothing going for themselves in life, wanted to sit around all day and do absolutely fucking nothing, veg out watching TV or whatever was going on, playing video games. And I'm going to college and you can't support me in that. Okay. No clue where that standard is coming from. No clue where the logic is in that reasoning, but okay. So, like I explained to her, compared to all of the fuck ups and the losers and abusers that you've dated over the years, you should have just counted yourself lucky that you were even with me. And I'm sure she'll never see it that way, and she'll always come up with some excuse to justify how things ended up happening. And like I said, I don't care. I'm not interested in arguing with people like that because if they can't see reason, then there's no point speaking to them. Wasting hours of your life arguing with some fool who thinks they know it all. So no matter what you say, it's never going to matter anyway, so who gives a shit? Why bother? What's the fucking point? But maybe in the future, if she actually is going to learn from this whole experience and this relationship, maybe she can keep these kinds of things in her mind in the future. That on the off chance she does find a guy down the road who is not an idiot and desperate enough to tolerate her bullshit, on the rare chance she finds a guy who doesn't fall into those two categories, because at this point in her life, those are probably the only kinds of guys she really qualifies for, to be honest with you. Stupid fucking beta males who are going to tell her whatever she wants to hear, never criticize her, and never hold her to any standards. So they're desperate to get laid, so they'll put up with all her bullshit. Or they're too fucking stupid to, they'll be too stupid to figure out that it's probably not a great idea to be with her. But on the off chance that she finds a guy that is not like that, then maybe she'll remember our relationship and then maybe she'll swallow her pride for once in her life. And maybe she'll be a little bit more grateful if she happens to find a guy like that. Because, she had her chance with me and she blew it. And now it's over. So, hey, she can either learn from the experience or not. and that's just the way that it is. But she, just like a lot of other women today, based on where they already are in their life and based on all the other baggage that they already have and all of the drama and bullshit that is associated with dating them, they should just count themselves lucky if they can even find men anymore who want to put up with them, to be completely honest with you. That's just the cold reality of the situation. So, hey, maybe some women will appreciate that more in the future, and then maybe there will be less meaningless arguments, less bitching and complaining about stupid, trivial bullshit, and maybe they'll actually have a sense of gratitude for the few men that they may find in the future to tolerate being with them. Because honestly, there are a lot of guys like me who, we have certain standards and we don't need to tolerate that kind of thing in a relationship, which is why we don't stay with women like that, you know? And I know that rubs a lot of women the wrong way, and they'll come up with every reason they want to tell themselves why that makes us insecure or afraid of commitment or an emotionally unavailable avoidant or whatever other buzz phrase they come up with. But that's not the case. It's just the fact that for a lot of us, life is too short and we're looking for a partner to build us up and help us in our lives in a chaotic world that already feels like a war. So we don't need to be in a relationship with somebody who's just going to make our lives a living hell or complicate our lives even more. Or the kind of person who you come home and you never have a moment of peace because there's always some fucking chaos going on in her mind. So she needs to start arguments. She needs to be trifling. She needs to be discontented and ungrateful and all this other stuff instead of just shutting up and appreciating the fact that, hey, I'm with a guy who doesn't slap me around. My life could be way worse. He has a real job. He's not an alcoholic. He's not a drug addict. Okay. You know, these seem like very simple traits in people, but they're not very common anymore. Because once again, a lot of people have set the bar extremely fucking low in life as far as what they tolerate and the kind of lifestyles that they want to live now. So, on the off chance that you find people who do not fit those categories, maybe appreciate it. Maybe don't take their moral character for granted. Because as the phrase goes, the grass isn't always greener. You might find a guy who makes more money than your ex did, but that might not mean anything if he's still just a piece of shit. If he's an alcoholic, if he has gambling problems, if he beats women, if he has pornography addictions. So, okay, you can set the bar however high you want for what you're looking for in a partner, but everybody has flaws. It's just a matter of determining how much bullshit you're willing to tolerate or not. And I'm just the kind of person who there are certain kinds of women that I don't have time to waste on. So, if I have to, then I just leave them. It's that simple. They get one chance with me, and if they fuck up, then it's over. And this is once again a lesson that she is now learning the hard way. So, like I said, maybe there's somebody else who's more equipped to deal with that. Maybe there's a guy who doesn't mind putting up with that kind of shit on a regular basis. But for someone like me, it's not worth it. You know, I'm the kind of person, I have enough self confidence in myself and I have enough respect for myself that I don't need to tolerate bullshit from anyone. So that's why I just left her. I'm sure other guys would have put up with that for a long time, and, you know, this is probably why some of her ex boyfriends were with her for a couple years. And As to how they put up with it for that long, who fucking knows? One of her ex-boyfriends was ex-military, and he was with her for 5 years. And even a guy like that at the end probably was at his wit's end. So that just kind of shows you how difficult she is. And that's just not me saying that. She's said that herself as well. She told me after I broke up with her that, oh, I understand I can be a pain in the ass. Okay, so what are we arguing about? You've already admitted that you're a pain in the ass. You know that you're a difficult woman. Okay, so that sounds like some personal shit that you need to worry about and figure out for yourself. That's not my problem. At least not anymore. Now that I broke up with her, that's not my fucking problem. That sounds like some shit you got to worry about. Okay, so you know that's just the way that it goes. So these are uh, just some honest things that hey, if some people are considering dating someone with ADHD, I would just be very aware of a lot of these communication breakdowns and some potential stresses that you're going to be dealing with and decide if that's something you want in your life or not. And like I also said in the previous article, people who have ADHD, it is very difficult for them to communicate with neurotypical individuals who do not have it. For a person who does not have ADHD, a lot of times, if you're with a partner like that, the frustration that you are going to feel, it is literally going to feel like you are trying to communicate with someone who speaks a foreign language. Think of all the frustration that you would deal with in a situation like that if you were just trying to communicate with someone and trying to ask them what they're thinking, trying to communicate your perspectives to them, and it's like no matter what you say to them, it doesn't matter because they cannot understand what you're saying. They cannot comprehend your communication. But the difference between those two situations is that a person who doesn't speak another language can learn how to speak another language, and eventually you will be able to communicate with the person who speaks a different language than you. That is not the same thing with a neurotypical individual trying to communicate with a person with ADHD, because at the end of the day, you cannot acquire ADHD if you are a neurotypical individual. There is never going to be a future scenario where all of a sudden you are going to understand exactly how their mind works. You can develop skills to improve your communication with them, but at the end of the day, that still might not be enough. There are a lot of differences that neither one of you are going to understand how to communicate to each other, and this is going to lead to a lot of resentment and a lot of frustration on both sides. So, this is why I said in the previous article that maybe people with ADHD would be better suited to date other people who have ADHD, because at least then you're with a partner whose brain works similarly to you. Maybe that will bridge a lot of the communication gaps and communication problems that a lot of you guys have. And then maybe you'll be able to have a better relationship because, at least from my experience, I'm just telling you that I don't know if a person who has ADHD dating a neurotypical person is the best idea. So maybe they need somebody else who has the same diagnosis as them, and then they can understand each other better, and then they'll have less communication breakdowns, and maybe they'll be able to find more things in common and have a better relationship. And hey, if that's how some people have to go about it as they're in the dating scene, okay, more power to them. I hope they find whatever the hell they're looking for and, you know, it works out for them. But at the end of the day, I have my own life to live. And there are just certain experiences that I've been in where I've made the decision that that's not the best thing for me, especially not given my personality type and my communication style. And even she would agree, I'm not the right person to date somebody with ADHD. They need things that I can't offer them, and I need things that they can't offer me. And that's just the cold reality of the situation. So this is what I explain to people when we're discussing this. And like I said, she may or may not listen to this video in the future, and it doesn't matter to me. Once again, had she ever listened to anything I ever told her, she would know by now that I don't censor myself for anyone. The point of free speech is not to censor yourself for a girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend or an employer or a college or a government or anybody else. I realize that she probably never really heard that message when I told her that, but that is my worldview. And if she listens to this video in the future, that's her business. And if she's listening right now, my message to her would be, hey, just like I tell everybody else, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can unsubscribe. Especially if you are just joining the ranks of everybody else who wants to act like I don't know what I'm talking about and this is just a trash channel. Okay, so what are you doing here? This is not about you, okay? I have an audience of people, and, if I didn't, there wouldn't be a little over 700 subscribers on this channel. There wouldn't be people who tune in to listen to what I say and actually have the intelligence to follow me online, check the community tab, read articles I publish, and get a different perspective on the world. And like I said before, if you are the kind of person who is not an intellectual like that, then this is not the place for you. So instead of looking for clickbait and looking for some reason to be offended about something, save yourself and everybody else the headache and just get off of the platform. That's all you have to do. It's really that simple. But moving forward, this is another reason that I am not going to be going out of my way anymore making new content and putting it up. Because especially in a situation like with my ex-girlfriend, she has basically just reacted like everybody else has over the years to a lot of the content that I make and a lot of the ideas that I discuss. They're overly emotional people. They're easily offended by every little thing. They get all wrapped up in the emotional outrage of that. They want to get upset about this, get upset about that, bottle all of it up, and then try to retaliate against me in one way or another. Which is why I also say that at this point in American history, especially at least for people with ADHD, I don't think social media is really a good fit for them. Based on the problems that they already have with their attention and the fact that they can't really focus on a lot of things for extended periods of time, they get bored very easily. Right there, that is a reason why long form podcast content is really not the place for them. Who knows if most of them are even ever going to be able to sit long enough without fidgeting with themselves or shouting at the screen on their laptop or their cell phone because they're outraged over something that I'm saying, which is something I saw my ex-girlfriend do numerous times when she would watch other YouTube videos. She can't even watch a YouTube video without shouting at the screen, an intangible object that she's shouting at because she disagrees with whatever the person is saying on the phone. So once again, she interrupts. She can't even hear what is being said on the other end, and it just becomes a vicious cycle of misunderstanding and stupidity. So right there, that is a prime example of why, the way that social media operates, it might not really be the best place for people with ADHD or other people who are very hypersensitive about a lot of different things. In case anyone hasn't noticed, social media is also an environment that is incredibly critical of a lot of different people and a lot of different things. And as much as these women or these tough guys or whoever the fuck they are want to say that, oh, nothing offends me, I can handle anything, blah, 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 I'm a strong woman, I'm a king, whatever these clowns say, well, if you are getting so easily offended simply by ideas that are being spoken on social media, you're not a strong-willed person. And in most cases, you probably have little to no control over your emotions. So if you're that kind of a person, that's a good sign for you that social media in general is probably not a good fit for you because it's already an environment that is really not created for people like you. And I know nobody else really wants to come out and say that today, but I'll be the first to tell you right now. We all know that social media is really built on a lot of materialism. Everybody's judging everybody else's body, who has the better body, who has the better car, who has the better career, and it's just all in everybody's face 24/7. And there are also a lot of people who are very controversial, and as much as people want to act like I'm the worst person in the world, there are a lot more radical people than me. Okay, and if you don't know that, that's simply because you haven't been around long enough or you really haven't been exposed to that many other controversial public figures, especially on social media. Okay, there are plenty of content creators that I could show you that you would listen to what they say and you would be astounded. You would be amazed how much those people would get under your skin and how you would probably in some cases literally hate them for being the kind of people that they are. So I say that so everybody understands. Social media is already a very hypercritical environment. Everybody's judging everybody about everything. So for people with ADHD, where they are very hypersensitive to criticism, okay, social media, you might want to take a break from it. At least if you can't control your emotions long enough to understand that that is the way that the environment is. And I'm not saying that everybody in that environment is acting ethically or they are justified in what they're doing and saying, but I'm also saying that that's just the reality of the world right now. Social media is like the wild, wild west. Okay, there are people that they're going to keep running their online businesses. They're going to keep saying whatever they want, regardless of who likes it or not, which on some level I do support because that's another point of free speech. Even people that I don't agree with, I can at least respect the fact that they're being open and honest and saying whatever the fuck they want, regardless of how much public backlash they're going to get from it. Because in a lot of situations, that is part of what empowers a lot of other people to frankly grow a pair of fucking balls. When you see other people who have the self-confidence to stand for an ideal in life and tell anybody who doesn't like it to go fuck themselves. That's the kind of passion and enthusiasm that is really lacking from the world right now. Because as I've said before, other than the fact that we live in a mass state of hypnosis in society right now where most of these people are addicted to the surface level bullshit like taking stupid fucking selfies or posting mindless memes that have no intellectual substance and don't mean a fucking thing in the grand scheme of humanity. Other than the fact that most people are trapped into that superficial, stupid, hollow, meaningless bullshit, so they're never going to actually empower anyone because they choose to live that way. Other than the reality of that going on social media today, the other benefit of people who speak the fuck up and actually stand for what they believe in life is that they actually have the balls to do it. And hopefully over time it will inspire more people to also grow a pair of fucking balls. And like I said before, the consequences of that for me doing that have cost me a lot. And anyone who knows me personally will tell you the same thing. Here I am a couple years later since this journey began, and hey, I've been essentially chased out of a college. There were a few hospitals that I had to leave because people just can't mind their fucking business. They want to try to interfere in my personal life for having a fucking opinion. They want to try to slander me with every label under the fucking sun based on things that, once again, they can't even comprehend. They hear a little soundbite of something I said a few years ago, and they're too fucking stupid to ever read a book themselves or do anything to come to their own conclusion. So, on the surface level, most of my critics at least, will tell you, oh yeah, he's a sexist, he hates women, I heard this about him, I heard that about him. Once again, totally discounting all of the evidence and the research that I've ever presented in these videos, that had people actually listen to my perspectives, they would know by now that, once again, being an anti-feminist doesn't mean you're a sexist. But hey, like I said, most of these idiots will never figure that out because I've said that for years and they still haven't even heard that fucking message because half these people are drooling like fucking zombies over their cell phones. They can't even figure out how to go view other videos I already have because they're fucking idiots. That's the cold reality of the situation. And so this is another reason why, like I said, moving forward, I'm not bothering anymore. What's the fucking point? I'm going to sit here and share a bunch of ideas that no one's ever going to fucking hear. This video will probably barely average 100 views now because, like, my videos don't go viral. Half the time they get fucking censored by the algorithm or some YouTube moderator. So right there, that's just going to be dead in the water. So right there, it's a waste of fucking time. And then you also factor into it that a lot of people, once again, like my ex-girlfriend, they're not really listening to what I'm saying and then meditating on it and putting aside their own biases and then coming up with their own ideas or maybe seeing a different perspective about the world. In her case, all she wanted to do, one of the last times that she texted me, and this just shows you how ignorant she really is. The way that she responded to me, she was clearly parroting words that I had said in a video from last year. She used very specific phrases. She was accusing me of, like, oh, I'm a fake person, and she used the phrase, oh, I saw your mask drop. That was clearly a statement that I made last year in a video, which I'm sure she watched that video, and then after that, that's why she was parroting those words to me. As if I have a shit memory, like her, which I don't, but saying that to me as if I have a shit memory and I'm not smart enough to figure out that she, watched that video and then wanted to parrot my words back to me. And the reason she was doing that was because she was trying to imply that I was somehow a hypocrite. That was one of the things that she was telling me. Oh, all you do is tell other people to improve themselves, and you don't want to improve yourself or do anything. And once again, these are all statements that just show she does not know who I am at all. If I was not improving myself, I wouldn't be going to college. I wouldn't already have an education like I do, and I wouldn't be going back to college to get another degree. If I wasn't improving myself, then I would be like all these other fucking losers today who are getting fired from their jobs for being drunk on the job, which I'm not gonna get into detail about that right now, but a lot of you who may listen to this might know exactly what I'm talking about with that. These people are getting fired from their job every other fucking day for being drunk on shift or being fucking high or whatever. I've yet to have anyone come to me with that kind of a complaint because when I sign up to do a job, I actually do what the fuck I'm being paid to do. So if I wasn't improving myself, I wouldn't be a reliable person that, regardless of who agrees with me or not, whether it's an employer or a college, it's like people know they can actually rely on me. I'm one of the few people in this world right now that they know that, as controversial as I can be and as much of an asshole as I can be, despite all these fucking losers and haters that try to throw shade at me, I've yet to have one of them actually come forward with evidence of me actually committing any wrongdoing. And I know a lot of them are, you know, spiteful losers. So for them, they're going to keep going in circles until they can find a way to sabotage me. Because that's all they care about. Because they've convinced themselves in their mind, like, oh, gee, there must be something about this guy. There must be some way we can throw his ass under the bus. Why the fuck do you think I was being stalked in the healthcare community for a good 4 fucking years? Back when I was in that situation. Because there were people at the hospitals and the colleges who couldn't stand the fact that I was a responsible, sober person and I was just showing up and doing what I was supposed to do. But of course, like all these other fucking people, that wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to go all over my social media and then bring up all these complaints about, oh well, he doesn't agree with this about gender identity, and we don't know how we feel about that. Once again, stupid, meaningless fucking bullshit. Literally just stupid people trying to cause stupid fucking problems. I wasn't breaking a law by having an opinion, yet the way that I was being treated in that situation, that's basically how it felt. When these people were going out of their way to try to defame my moral character, fuck with my reputation, and fuck with my career, based on the fact that there were some resentful, vindictive people in a couple of these healthcare communities who didn't agree with my opinions. That's really what it came down to. And like I said, if anyone doesn't believe that, well, you can believe whatever the fuck you want. But like I said before, run a background check or go to the hospitals and the college yourself and inquire about me. Because I guarantee you, you're not going to find one shred of evidence or one piece of paperwork that was ever filed as a complaint against me, or anybody who actually had any evidence of a law being broken. I've literally used social media platforms in America as my medium for promoting free speech. That's literally what this has been the whole time. And yet there are still people who want to try to bring a case against me as if that is a crime. That was one of the main things that I had mentioned when I was speaking to somebody else about this. Back when I was first enrolled at that program, one of our professors at the time, she knew that the hospital that I was at, Nathan Latour, that there were staff that were starting to stalk my social media. And she knew that because she had already been called in previously so that the HR department could grill her about me as a student. They were starting to ask her questions about, you know, how I was as a student, and that they had people that were starting to come forward with complaints that, well, they're on his social media and they don't like what he says. And they're starting to get offended, and this might cause a public relations nightmare. So, what are you going to do about that? And she actually has integrity, so in not so many words, she basically told them to go fuck themselves because I wasn't breaking any rules. So she wasn't going to kick me out of the program, which is probably what they wanted, I would imagine. But this is when the problems started. So as a result of that, in one of the lectures that we had, when she was addressing the class, as we were talking about some different things one day, she didn't speak to me directly. She kind of made like a blanket statement as she was addressing the class, as the topic was starting to kind of get into political waters and, all these other things. She made a blanket statement to the class just so that we were aware. She said, paraphrasing, she had basically said that if you are in a work environment and you are controversial on your social media, I am telling you right now, there are people that they are building a case against you. They are monitoring your social media, they're taking screenshots, they're doing whatever they do, and they are trying to find a way to get you out of that environment. So just be careful with what you say, and you might want to set some things to private or kick them out of the conversation so they don't have access to your social media. And I appreciate that she warned all of us, but specifically me, because out of a class of 26 people, I was clearly the only person who had the balls to be speaking out on social media, even to this day, about a lot of things that are going on in this culture. So I doubt she was actually uh, really directing that statement at anyone but me. That statement was really directed towards me. And as much as I appreciated her being honest with us, one of the things that I have said to people when I have talked to them about this is, I just described the situation and I'm like, okay, well, the way that she worded it, she said they're building a case against you. And my question for all of this is, what fucking case? People that you work with or go to college with are building a case against you. Well, what fucking case? If no crime is being committed, what fucking case are they putting together? That's my argument with all of this. And that's something that the people who are stalking your social media don't seem to understand. I don't know what the fuck they're trying to achieve or what they think they're doing other than being pathetic, vindictive, and really disloyal piece of shit human beings, but they're not actually achieving anything by doing what they're doing. They're certainly not building a case. If no law is being broken and all you're doing is engaging in free speech, then they're fucking idiots if they think they're building a case against you. Sure, they might have a lot of people who rally behind them, especially in any work environment that is mainly comprised of women, because all it is a fucking hen click. If you don't click with the group of women and they decide they don't like you, then they'll try to make your life a living hell. That's just the way women are in general. So, it's easy for people to gang up on you and decide they don't like you, but once again, that's not a case. A bunch of stupid gossiping women is that are bent about you. That's not a fucking case. And if it was a case, then I'm sure I would have already been subpoenaed to go to court by now, had a crime actually ever been committed during my time in healthcare and as an intern. And once again, that never fucking happened. So that should be more than enough evidence for anybody who's, still curious about this whole situation to realize that, no crime was committed. It really just came down to people who, frankly, I think they would just like me better if I was just a brain dead fucking zombie like everybody else today. If I was an alcoholic, if I was a pothead, if I didn't have a fucking opinion about anything, I never read a book in my goddamn life, I think I'd fit right in with every other fucking zombie out there today. And I think the fact that I'm not that kind of a person, that is essentially why I've had certain issues, because a lot of people can't handle that. They can't handle the controversy of who I am, and they can't handle a lot of other things that I just publicly discuss when no one else really has the courage to do so. So those were basically the reasons that I was harangued by these communist clowns that think they know best and think that they actually advocate for free speech and freedom and the best interests of their employees or their college students, when in reality the majority of them are control freaks and they literally cannot stand anybody who does not step right in line along with every other brain dead fucking zombie today. If you're taking selfies and posting mindless memes and doing all the other stupid shit they expect you to do, you'll never have a problem. Everyone will love you, or they'll pretend to love you, and you probably won't have too many issues. But if you have any divergent opinion whatsoever, like me, or you dare to stand for something in life publicly, not just bitching about it in secret to all your friends, like a lot of you tend to do, whether it's about the trans community or anything else. I'm not talking about bitching in secret like a lot of you cowards do, especially all these women who say, oh, I'm a boss bitch and no one tells me what to do. Well, when I hear those women say that, I put them right on the spot and I say, okay, if you were really such a strong woman, you would be taking a public stand like I am right now instead of running your fucking mouth in secret. But most of these bitches will never do that. They just want the public theater of being a baddie or whatever the fuck they call it. Oh, I'm a boss queen, I'm a boss bitch. And it's a hilarious fucking hypocrisy because I don't see those women on their social media having a divergent opinion about gender. They're the first ones that'll bitch about the trans community just like everybody else. But when it comes to having a fucking pair of balls and speaking the fuck up about it and publicly making a statement, for instance, that they don't support it or they're not going to teach that to their children or whatever the case may be, oh, well, then they have nothing to say. Then they don't have shit to say. I find that very interesting. We hear all these buzz phrases about, oh, women have a voice in the 21st century. Yeah, until it comes down to anything controversial. Sure, they can talk shit and disrespect men. Yeah, of course, that's normal. No one cares about that at this point. That's just normal. It's normal for women to disrespect men and, not get married and sleep around and do all the other shit that I've talked about on this podcast. All that's normalized. But when it comes to women embodying positive behavior that might benefit their families or their female peers by setting a positive example for them, to not be useless fucking sluts, to not be disrespectful of men, to actually try to embody some positive ideal of femininity in this modern age of whoredom and mediocrity and stupid fucking women. When it comes to all that kind of stuff, oh well, they don't want to do that. Those are risks we're not willing to take. So when I see this kind of behavior, that's why I put a lot of those women on the spot. I just tell them straight up, you're not a fucking boss, okay? Why don't you just drop the fucking act, lady? You're not a boss queen. You're not a boss bitch. You're a fucking coward, just like everybody else today. And you think putting a couple hashtags on your social media is actually fooling anyone. Some mindless fucking buzz phrases that you put up there. You're no fucking hero. You're no fucking activist or whatever the fuck you want to fashion yourself as. You're a fucking hypocrite. You're a liar. You're a fraud. And you're a fucking coward like everyone else. Because you're the same women who are bitching about the trans community in private. Oh, I can't stand this, and oh, this is so creepy, and it doesn't make sense, and it's weird. Okay, then speak the fuck up on your social media about it. How about you do that? Oh, I can't do that. I only talk shit about people in secret. I can't go public with that information. Okay, well, this is why I call these people out as cowards. Okay, and they're also the same people who are, once again, always sitting in criticism of me. Oh, I can't believe he's saying this publicly and that's so intolerant. And it's like, hey, I'm just saying what everybody else is thinking at the end of the day. That's all I'm fucking doing. All of you are thinking it or talking shit in private about it. I'm just publicly saying it because I have the balls to say it. And frankly, I don't give a fuck who likes it or not, or who agrees with it or who disagrees with it. I don't give a fuck about my employer. I don't give a fuck about any church community, and I don't give a fuck about any government that does not agree with what I have to say. Fuck them. And I realize that puts a target on my back because no one else has the balls to stand the fuck up for what they believe in. But that's just the way that it is. So that's how I put people on the spot when they're trying to blast me for the things that I say and what I believe in. I just look at them dead ass. I'm like, okay, what the fuck are you doing? If you disagree with me, go home, get on your social media, and instead of taking your retarded selfies and posting some stupid ass quote that you pretend you're living your life by, why don't you post something of some intellectual value for a fucking change? Come up with your own ideas. Or why don't you have the balls to just tweet or write something controversial one day in your fucking life? Why don't you go do that? And the answer for most of these people will always be, well, I can't do that because I'm afraid of losing my job. I'm afraid of losing friends. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. Okay, fine. That's your fucking choice. But don't sit back and act like I'm the fucking problem just because I'm saying what all of you are just terrified to say. That's just the reality of the situation. But this goes back to what I was saying before about how do you embody the change that you want to see in the world. And another thing that I explain to women is that, okay, there are some women who agree with what I say, and I appreciate that. And okay, if it encourages you on some level, okay, I'm glad to hear that. But what I've also tried explaining to women is that a lot of people today make emotional decisions based on who is speaking, based on who is speaking to them, based on the behavior of the people they see in society. So one of the things that I've tried explaining to a lot of women is that, okay, if you agree with what I say about women and modern feminism brainwashing a good majority of them to not be quality women anymore, to live like sluts, to dress like sluts, to never be loyal to a man, to never have a husband, to never have a healthy family, or whatever the situation is, okay, if you agree with that message, then go off and do something to model healthy behavior for your female peers. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a woman, so it doesn't matter how I live my life as a man, as far as encouraging other women might be concerned. There are certain things that only women are going to be able to do to model healthy behavior for their female peers. It's going to mean a lot more to a lot of lost, confused, and angry women that might not be happy with their lives, that might be jaded about men or living like sluts, whatever the case may be. It's going to be a lot more encouraging to them if they see positive examples of women around them. So my advice to women is like, okay, recognize the fact that a lot of these girls, that they really didn't have great mothers. Their mothers didn't instill them with any values. Their mothers didn't give a shit about them. So in many cases, this is why they're acting out the way they are, or dressing the way that they are, or living their lives the way they are. And if you don't agree with that, okay, you're not alone. I don't agree with a lot of it either, but you're going to have more of a positive impact on their lives than I can as a man. If you choose to dress more conservatively and respectfully as a woman, that sends a more positive message to younger females who are looking at you as their positive example of femininity. When you are the kind of woman who actually listens to men and respects men, and you show a certain level of respect to your elders, or to a man who is your husband or a leader of your family, that sends a positive message to a lot of dysfunctional females who are jaded about men or have no respect for men or treat men like shit. So there are certain positive choices that you can make as a woman that will improve their lives, or at least encourage them to aspire to do better. This is something that I also try to embody in my life, if not necessarily for women, for other men. There are plenty of charity programs that I have partnered with in the past, because I realize that while I may not have sons because I'm not married yet, I realize there are a lot of younger males who are disillusioned, and they have a lot of problems in their personal life because they didn't have a real father, or they didn't have a father at all. So this is not a situation like a lot of people, I'm sure, like to try to accuse me of from time to time, that, oh, well, he's telling everybody to do this and that, but he's not doing anything. I've said for years, I've done the best that I can to work with different men, whether they're younger men or men closer to my age, to embody masculinity to the best of my ability. I have tried to model positive masculine behavior to try to be a responsible role model for other men. Now, if they take inspiration from my actions and the things that I do to lead by my own example, okay. I'm not perfect. I've never said that I am, but I am at least doing my role. I am at least doing what I can with my life for the time being to try to inspire other men to be more responsible, to do better as men. So this is what I try to explain to people when they get all caught up in their emotions, like my ex-girlfriend did, or all these people from healthcare over the years who have stalked my social media to no fucking end and tried scrutinizing me like I'm the worst person in the world for having standards, for having opinions, and for holding people to certain standards. This is what I've tried explaining to people, okay? This isn't just about listening to the ideas that I am saying and then getting offended about something you don't agree with. It is about asking yourself the question of how much integrity do you have? And asking yourself the question of if you actually want to live in a better world. Because a lot of people that are out there today, clearly they don't care about that, because they're doing nothing but destroying themselves and destroying the world. So if you don't agree with that and you don't like what's happening, okay, I get it. I'm right on the same page with you. If nothing else, we can agree about that. And what I am proposing is that there are certain actions that you can take yourself that, hey, some people probably aren't going to care, and you're probably never going to get any recognition for it because these days, if you're doing the right thing, it's a thankless job. I'll be the first person to tell you right now. Even if you don't have a prison record and you don't beat women or whatever the case may be, you know, especially being a man these days, a real man is a thankless job. There are some people that really don't care, and their attitude is like, oh, well, of course, well, that's expected of you, so why don't you just shut up and get on with it and just do it already? That's their attitude. They have no appreciation for what you're doing, they have no gratitude for who you are as a person. They don't give a flying fuck that you didn't end up a statistic and you don't beat women and you're not an alcoholic and all this other stupid shit. Of course not, because in their mind, it's like, oh, well, everyone's expected to do the right thing, so like, what do you want? A goddamn award? No, not necessarily, but in some cases I would appreciate a little fucking respect. That's all I ask from people. It's like at the end of the day, hey man, you don't have to agree with me, you don't have to like me, I don't give a fuck. But instead of all the criticism and all of the bitching and fucking complaining that you people like to do, especially when you're the kind of people who aren't doing a fucking thing with your life to improve yourself for the better or to try to help other people or improve society, at the very least, I would appreciate it if a lot of you would just shut the fuck up, stop complaining, and learning to appreciate the very few people in the world like myself who are actually trying to make a positive impact. And maybe swallow your fucking pride from time to time and show a little respect. That's all I ask from people. I don't need a fucking award. I don't need thousands of nobodies on my social media liking some stupid photos that I have to give me fake attention and fake validation. I don't need any of that superficial bullshit that most people seem to need today to survive. At the very least, I would just appreciate a little fucking respect. And to not be treated like a fucking criminal simply for engaging in free speech in this country and having the balls to speak the fuck up about a lot of things that other people don't want to talk about. If that makes me the worst person in the world, okay, so be it. But like I said in the last video, if any of you had any common fucking sense, you would know by now that in the grand scheme of humanity, I should be the least of your worries. Compared to all these other men and a lot of dysfunctional women and all this other stuff going on right now, I should really be the least of your worries. If the worst complaint that you can bring against me is that, you know, I'm kind of rough around the edges and I don't talk the way you want me to talk and I say offensive things, okay. That's life. You know what I mean? I don't know what else to tell a lot of you people. I don't know how you were raised. I don't know where the fuck you come from, and I don't know who convinced you that the real world operates in the way that you think it should, but it doesn't. You're not going to agree with everybody that you meet, okay? You're not going to like everybody that you meet. You're not going to have the same political beliefs that people have. You're not going to share the same religion. That's just life. But at the end of the day, it's like you're just going to have to deal with that. It's a diverse society. And yeah, a lot of people are assholes and they're pieces of shit, but you can still show human dignity to people. I see it all the time. I've done it myself. It's possible. There's plenty of people I've met over the years that, hey, I may not have respect for them, but I still show them respect because I'm trying to treat them in the way that I would like to be treated. Even if I don't like them and even if I don't agree with them, it doesn't matter because I'm intelligent enough to put my own biases aside and realize, okay, this person is still a human being. I don't have to like them. I don't have to agree with them. It doesn't matter. But I can show them a little respect and I can try my best to treat them with a little human dignity. And to be honest with you, that is it seems like that should be very simple advice, but I say it because clearly a lot of you are not capable of that today. You people get offended so fucking easily by the smallest thing, and then you just want to treat people like shit for it for the rest of your fucking life. You want to act like somebody killed your mother or some shit for, having an opinion you don't agree with. So you're going to try to make their life a living hell or treat them like shit. It's fucking ridiculous. And like I said before, this is the main reason why, yes, there are a lot of people who disagree with me, but those people still have more respect for me than they do for a lot of you. Because they know that no matter how controversial I may be, I haven't deluded myself into thinking that my human dignity matters more than other people's. I still do my best to treat other people the way that I would like to be treated. Even people who are pieces of shit. There are a lot of people who have fucked me over the years, and I guarantee you that if a lot of you were in my situation, you would have lost it a long time ago. I've been in a lot of difficult situations, and I've been in a lot of situations where I know a lot of you, and I know the short fuses and short tempers you have. You would have lost your shit a long time ago had you been in my situation. But luckily, I had a good upbringing, and I had parents that actually gave a shit about me, and they did their best to teach me how to be patient with people and how to work to be as responsible as I can. So this is why a lot of people, when they compliment me, they do say, "Oh, you have the patience of a saint." And they say that because they know all the different people that I've dealt with over the years. And somehow I have not lost my temper. Or I should say, I haven't lost my temper to such a degree that it jeopardized my reputation. I've never been arrested for anything. I've never had some kind of a complication where I had to go to court for beating the shit out of somebody or whatever the case may be. So that's something else that people can remember when they want to sit in judgment and criticism of me and say, oh, well, maybe he should do this or live that way. And it's like, well, you're not me. At the end of the day, you are not me. You don't know, most of you don't even know me personally, especially if you're going to listen to this video. Most of you don't know who the fuck I am, and you never will because you don't care anyways. But at the end of the day, none of you are me, and you haven't had the experiences that I have had. And if a lot of you actually knew the various experiences that I have been through, you would have more of an appreciation for the man that I am. Because any lesser man than me who has been in the situations that I have been in, they would have lost their shit a long time ago. And that's just the cold fact of the matter. And once again, that's not something that I expect recognition for. I don't expect a goddamn medal for that. But at the same time, I also expect just a shred of human decency and some fucking respect from a lot of ungrateful and really stupid fucking people who, even after all these years later, dare to try to question my integrity simply based on the fact that, oh, well, he offended me years ago and I don't agree with him about this or that. That's not a reasonable argument. If we're going to talk about evaluating somebody's moral character and their integrity, well, simply disagreeing with somebody doesn't actually make them a criminal. Okay? So for all those people who still think that, they're fucking delusional, and I don't know what else to tell them other than to just fuck off, I'm not forcing you to affiliate with me. I'm not forcing you to be on my social media platforms, and I'm not forcing you to be my fucking friend. Most of you have already made the choice to not be loyal to me, and that's your choice, so just go off and do that. What the fuck do you even care about who I am or what I believe in? Clearly it's irrelevant to you, so just fuck off. That's all you have to do. So these are just some things that I bring up when we are talking about embodying different aspects of behavior that you want to see. like I've said numerous times, if people wanted to change that situation, they could go and get their own fucking ideas and they could discuss whatever the hell they want, but they're never going to fucking do that. They're always going to try to rely on me to do it, which is another reason why I'm not bothering anymore. It's not my fucking responsibility to keep sharing wisdom with people, thinking for them. That's their fucking problem. Let them decide to do that or not. Because frankly, I've been uh, on this little journey for about 6 years now, and most of it's just been a waste of fucking time. And even the people who have ever heard anything I've ever said, it's just been in one ear and out the other. So at this point, I'm just asking myself, like, what the fuck's the point? That doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing things in my own personal life or whatever, but it does mean that I'm, at least on this platform, I'm fucking done. I'm done bothering. It's a dead social experiment. No, hardly anyone's ever going to hear the message, or the people who ever are going to hear it are going to get offended. And the most brilliant thing that they're ever going to do is, something like I said, like my ex-girlfriend did, trying to retaliate against me and use some parroted fucking words that I already said, because even in a situation like that, she's not even intelligent enough to come up with her own argument. She has to repeat back to me words that I said in a video as her response to me. So, like I said, my message to her and everybody else is, okay, well, since I don't know what I'm talking about, and apparently whatever I say is never going to matter anyways, I'm done arguing with you. I'm done pretending to care about your life or your perspectives because you don't respect mine. So I have no incentive to pretend to care with you. And anything that I've ever said has just fallen on deaf ears anyways. So now, the show is over. I'm not wasting my time anymore on this platform. So now, hey, like I said previously, if a lot of you know better than me, then hey, go ahead, go for it. Prove me wrong. Most of you never will, but since you think you know it all, okay, fine. Stop listening to me. You never listen to me anyways, so you're right on track with that. Stop listening to what I'm saying. Fuck off, and hey, go do something else if you think you're right or I don't know what I'm talking about. By all means, prove me wrong. I'd have a lot more respect for a lot of you if you did prove me wrong. Because unfortunately, I know given the kind of world we live in right now, a lot of you are just going to stay stuck in life right where you are. Wherever you're stuck right now, that's where you're going to be stuck in 5 or 10 years from now. I would like to think that's not going to be the reality. Maybe some of you will finally wake up to reality and do something different, do something better for yourself and for other people. But I also realize that the majority of you are, never going to do that. But as far as this platform goes, the time for relying on me to always say things for you that you never will publicly because you're a fucking coward, that time is over. The time for all these fucking idiots in the healthcare communities and the hospitals and the colleges that I attended or whatever, stalking my social media, trying to figure out where I am and what I'm doing and all this other stupid shit, well, their time for doing that is over. Because I'm wise to their act, I know exactly what they're fucking doing, so I'm done leaving them a breadcrumb trail. I'm done explaining myself to people. I'm done, you know, going on with this meaningless fucking charade. There's no fucking point. And they know that about me. And as much as a lot of people don't agree with that, part of the other reason that most people, even if they don't agree with me, have more respect for me is that because, like I said, living in a society right now that is in a mass state of hypnosis, I'm one of the few people who is actually speaking the truth, and I'm actually talking about reality, and I'm talking about the reality of life in a time when most people really just want to lie, not only to other people, but to themselves. and all they want to do is live in fucking la la land, whether that's the fakery of social media or, like I said, pretending to be somebody else for other people's comfort level, pretending to not have an opinion about gender or women or whatever the topic is, politics, religion, you know. So if nothing else, even though the views have stopped coming in on this channel now because it's essentially fucking broken for various reasons that I've just described, you know, I think the reason why I still am technically ending this channel with about 183,000 views, that's my grand total that I've accumulated over the past 6 years since I started doing this. You know, those might be rookie numbers in this game, but the numbers still don't lie. I wouldn't have gotten 183,000 views on YouTube if what I said, if what I ever said was irrelevant. If what I ever said didn't resonate with some people who can see my side of things and my perspectives and it resonates with them. You don't just get close to 200,000 views on YouTube because you're an irrelevant person or because you're an intolerant person that everybody hates, so you're the worst person in the world. Well, if that were the case, then I'd be ending this channel with a lot fewer views than 183,000 views. Okay, so that's something else that other people can remember as they sit in criticism of me, which is really all that most of these people really seem to know how to do. And as I've said for years, whether people have ever heard this message or not, I will conceptualize it one more time as I close today, because this will be the last video that ever goes up on this channel, because at this point I'm just done with a lot of you, and I'm just done waiting around for a lot of you to get the message when I know you never will. A lot of people that I've offended from over the years, they're never even going to hear this message because they already walked out of the room a long time ago. Whether that was deleting me off of social media, blocking me, ghosting me, cancel culturing me, whatever the situation is. So those are people who are fools because they only want to affiliate themselves with people and ideas that they agree with, or people who always tell them whatever they want to hear. So somebody like me, they have no use for me in their life, and I accept that. That's just who they are as people. They are literally fools, which is why I don't lose sleep over them. I don't care what they do with their lives, and I don't really care what they think of me. On the day that I die, none of these people are going to be showing up to my funeral because they're not my friends and they're not my family. So why the fuck would I care what they think about anything? This is a very simple life philosophy, but you can literally apply it to every aspect of your daily life. Whether it's your coworkers, your college classmates, your government, even your church community in some situations. It doesn't matter. You know, you have no incentive to waste time on people who do not care about you, or they just go through the motions of pretending to care about you. And when you live your life that way, you will come off as cold to a lot of people who may not understand why you believe and live the way you do. But in reality, most people already live their lives that way. And they can rationalize it away any way they want and tell you every lie in the book. Oh, no, I really care about you. I really care about other people. When most of them, you know for a fact that they're full of shit. So there's no point playing games with them and there's no point pretending with them. But anyways, I bring that up because most of the people who, like I said, walked out of the room a long time ago, as far as these conversations go, all of this information is lost on them. But what I have said for years, no matter how cliche it might sound, is that if you want to see a positive change in the world, ask yourself what you are doing to be the change that you want to see in the world. Okay? It's all well and good that I know a lot of you who are subscribed here, you're actually interested in hearing my perspectives, and some of you are taking proactive steps to alter the way that you think or to make different choices to benefit yourself and benefit other people, and I'm all for that. But I would also remind a lot of other people who are not doing that that it's all well and good to listen to what I'm saying, but if all you're going to do is complain and bitch about me later, you defeat the whole purpose of even listening to a podcast. And I'm saying that because I know for a fact, whether it's my ex-girlfriend or anybody else that I've pissed off over the years, there are people who stay subscribed here, and literally all they're doing at this point is just waiting for the next video and waiting to get offended about something, without ever doing anything themselves to improve themselves or to help other people or to do something to have a beneficial impact in society. And if people are still looking for a grander reason as to why I was basically chased out of healthcare when I attended FMCC and their affiliate hospitals, that was exactly the situation that happened there too. There were plenty of people who stalked my social media for years, they never learned anything, and literally all they achieved was trying to interfere with my life and my success, all on the basis of the fact that they didn't like me, and I have some very controversial worldviews about a lot of things that a lot of people do not agree with, and their solution to that problem is chasing people like me out of their work environments. That's really what all this comes down to. No crime was committed. You know, engaging in free speech in America is not a crime. I didn't abuse any patients that I had. I've never had a patient complaint ever filed against me over the course of 15 years that I've worked in healthcare, and I challenge anyone to contest that. All of this is a matter of public record. You can run a background check on me, so you're never going to find any complaints that were brought against me as a healthcare professional. So when people are wondering why certain events happen the way that they did, this is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that it comes down to a lot of petty biases that a lot of resentful people have towards those that they do not agree with or they do not like for whatever reason. And that's unfortunate that those people would be able to interfere with somebody's life like they did with me, which then altered the certain outcome of certain events, whether it would have been my career or my reputation in certain healthcare circles. It's unfortunate that those people can engage in that behavior with impunity, without consequence, without legal repercussions, but this is just the way that the world is right now. There are a lot of people that are engaging in borderline criminal behavior, but no one has the balls to oppose them, no one has the balls to speak out against them, and in most cases people just stay silent in fear. They're not going to be filing lawsuits against them like I have done in the past. They're not going to be standing up for themselves. They don't have the confidence to stand for an ideal at all in life anymore, whether this is saying they're a Christian or saying they're a conservative or whatever the case may be, because they are literally terrified of all these other people who are literally tyrants, whether they are in their workplaces or the colleges or anywhere else. There are so many of these psychos in every aspect of our daily lives now that a lot of people have been bullied into a state of fear. So this is why they don't speak out, and this is why they want to try to blend in with everybody else and keep their head down. Because even the more ignorant people among us know that it is much safer in life to be horizontal. And what I mean by that is somebody who does not stand out. It is much safer in this society to operate on a linear level, meaning to not be controversial, to never offend anybody, and in some cases to pretend to be somebody else that other people want you to be to accommodate their comfort level. They don't believe in Christianity, so you pretend not to be a Christian because you don't want to offend them or you don't want to lose certain friends. You work for an employer that deals with the general public, so you pretend to not have certain opinions, whether this be about trans ideology, gender identity, or whatever the situation is. Because you know damn well that your employers, most times, are all over your social media. They're monitoring you like a hawk, and they are waiting for the slightest shred of dissent so that they can pull you into an HR meeting and sit down with you and tell you, well, we'd like to thank you for your years of service, but your time with us is over now. Because you don't align with who we want you to be, and we have a mainstream agenda that we need to placate to, and a certain public image that we need to maintain, and you're too intelligent, and you're too vocal, and you make people uncomfortable. So they will dispose of you while pretending to be impartial about the whole situation, when in reality they're not impartial about anything. I can guarantee you right now that every employer, every globalist institution, and every college in this country right now that is telling you they are impartial, they are not. These institutions are still run by people, and people have their own biases, whether they admit that they have them or not. Okay? There is no such thing as an impartial person who has no opinion. Everybody has an opinion about something. And if you don't believe that, look at all the fucking idiots on social media today. Whether they can explain those opinions in detail or not remains to be seen. Because a lot of them literally are fucking idiots. But everybody has an opinion about something. So the idea that people are somehow impartial and they're tolerant of everyone is just bullshit. It is incredibly ignorant to believe that no one in the world is a racist, or no one in the world is a homophobe, or no women hate men, or whatever the situation may be. No person is impartial, okay? And the same thing goes for all these other employers and all these other institutions. Because if they were impartial, they wouldn't be taking certain steps to fuck with you, or fuck with your career or your reputation. Okay? If the hospitals and all these places that I have been at over the years were impartial, I wouldn't have had all the problems that I did with those places. All those people had to do was just mind their own fucking business. But of course, they couldn't do that. They invaded my privacy and were stalking my social media for a little over 3 years. Probably even 4, now that when I think about it more. Up to 4 years, these people were stalking my old Facebook before I shut that down to cover part of my trail. You know, they were all over my social media, and the complaints that were being brought against me were from petty people. Some women, some trans, but petty people who are anything but impartial. It all came down to I said certain things online, or I published certain articles, whether it would have been dark satire, which apparently people don't understand the point of being an author today, but you know, Satire means that I can have a dark sense of humor and write something and not necessarily be serious about it. Maybe it's sarcasm, maybe it's creative liberty that I'm taking with my writing style. But once again, we live in a world of fucking idiots, so people just read something and take it totally out of context, or want to define it as hate speech, or whatever the case may be. And the fact that most people are too fucking stupid to ever figure that out is why I don't bother anymore. I don't bother trying to explain to them what's going on. I don't get into these long, endless conversations about ideologies and how they work and everything because I've just come to the conclusion that most people don't have the intellectual fortitude to understand how they have been manipulated. And the people who have effectively brainwashed them are so good at what they do because they have put them in a cognitive state, literally, where they will never see reality. They will literally never be able to figure out what exactly has happened to them and when it happened. Whether this was through the indoctrination in the college educational systems or all of the social media algorithms that manipulated them for years, took them down certain rabbit holes online, and then that becomes their new worldview every time an algorithm gets updated, and then they're being exposed to all this other information, and then that distracts them even more, and then that convinces them of another worldview. This is how all these people are kept under control. But they can't control themselves anymore. They can't think for themselves, and they have a lot of impulse control issues, which is why they can't walk away from social media. They can't limit their screen time. They don't have the attention span to read books to get different perspectives on the world. So these are all different things that are continually happening over time, and it's only going to get worse because no one really gives a shit. And that's just the cold reality. The world is literally going to hell in a handbasket, and the people like me who try to speak out about it, we're silenced, we're ignored. Everybody wants to act like we don't know what we're talking about. And on the other end, while that's happening, the world just keeps fucking burning. Most average people don't give a shit about anything. So this is why these things are just going to keep happening. The system will keep burning and falling apart, and everyone's going to keep believing that their fucking government will save them, or whatever the situation is, when it's all just built on a fucking lie. I truly believe that the only main goal for a lot of these organizations today, whether they're the colleges or the governments, I truly think that it really just benefits them to have the most people that they can who are just stupid, distracted constantly, and who just end up poor for the rest of their life. I think that's truly what their goal is. After everything I've seen, and after I've seen how cancel culture is starting to operate now, where anyone who is trying to help other people is just being interfered with, or false allegations are being brought against them to slander them or cancel culture them. I see all these different things going on, and I can't help but think that the true end goal is because they really don't want responsible people in this society. They don't want financially independent people who are able to live life on their own terms, because people like that are a threat to corporations who rely on warm bodies to keep their machine running. So, yeah, financially independent people who don't need a job at a warehouse or whatever, yeah, those people are a threat to them. Absolutely.